Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this public hearing for May 1st, 2013 to order and convene the board as a budget committee. I'd like to thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. There's a couple of housekeeping items that I'd like to mention before we get started. One is, I think most folks are doing it, but if you have a sign, we're working on the volume. They get it adjusted as we go. Thank you. They try not to blast everybody out, but they need to see what level I'm speaking at. I'm hoping now I think everybody can hear me. So a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Thank you to those of you that have signs to make sure that you're standing in back so that other folks can see. If you're sitting, you're welcome to hold your sign and you're welcome to hold it at your body, but just as long as you're not blocking somebody else's view. I also want to remind folks to keep the aisles clear. It does become a capacity issue with the fire marshal. So we've set aside this evening to hear your comments on the superintendent's proposed budget 2013-14. And because we want to have everybody, and we have 85 people signed up this evening, we've extended our time to another hour, and we are asking those that are going to testify to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Because we want to hear everybody's comments, I will be rather forceful in that 2 minutes to move folks along so that we can hear as many people as we want. And I also want to encourage folks that if you hear somebody that's testifying on something that's important to you, if you could just kind of give a finger way that this shows us how many people in the room are kind of feeling that same way. And I also encourage that if you've heard 10, 15, 20 people speak to something that you were intending to testify, if you could maybe give up your testimony again so that we can get through as many people and we hear as many voices. And if we see this, then really hearing it a 21st or 22nd time, it begins to have a diminishing effect as we get a little bit tired. We think we begin to know what you're going to say. So if you could help us out, that would be greatly appreciated. Public feedback is obviously very important to us as we move into this consideration. The board acting as budget committee will take everything into consideration before we approve the budget, which is currently scheduled for May 20th. Just a reminder that we have a meeting on May 6th that has public testimony before it, and we also have another public meeting on May 13th that also has additional testimony slots available. I do want to provide a little context before we jump into the discussion. Some of you may be following it closer than others. So just a reminder that you probably heard the superintendent's message, and this seems to be confusing a lot of people, that came out and said the state's state school funding budget is stable, and then many people are hearing of cuts at their building. And that's a result of many factors. State school funding, we wanted to acknowledge that state legislators for the first time in a number of years, pegged a number at 655 cash, 200,000 in PERS savings, which was a larger slice of the state budget dedicated to education as a percentage of the state budget than they have in the past couple of bienniums. So we felt it important to acknowledge to our state legislatures that they took a stand early to say this is the number we're getting to. They haven't passed that budget yet. There are still a lot of workings. So I just want to recommend to you or acknowledge to you that these are the cuts that we're considering. We are trying to find ways to minimize those cuts, but we know that the superintendent made a lot of maneuvers to minimize the cuts that we were going to face. And the cuts primarily come from the federal government with federal sequestration, so special ed, ELL, Title I, Title IIA, those are kind of technical terms for schools in our students that are experiencing poverty. In addition, there's some foreign language access grants. So there were a number of cuts or reductions to our funding, and so what the superintendent has proposed to do is to fill some of those cuts with general fund dollars, again, coming from the state, as well as making up for the $5 million one-time money that came from the city. You'll remember last year the city came to our rescue, gave us $5 million to save 110 teachers, and we've been able to retain those as well as part of this budget. So that's why it does become a confusing message of it's a stable state budget, but it's still a cuts budget as far as reduction in FTE at many schools, not all schools, but many schools. where we are at where we're at in the budget process is the superintendent gave us her proposed budget on April 15th. At our last board meeting, we've heard many comments, and there were enough board members to ask, can the superintendent go back and find ways, for example, to minimize the additional FTE in schools, primarily high schools, because we've heard a lot of folks say that high schools are experiencing, high school students don't have a full day of class, and so how do we mitigate that? So we've asked the superintendent, the board has asked the superintendent to come back with a couple of different options, give us some options on what we could do to minimize that effect. So that's where we're at, and we will be presented with that, or we'll get to discuss that on May 6th. With that, I don't want to take up more time for my talking, but I just wanted to give you a context that this is still very much a public process, and we're looking forward to your comments this evening. Tonight we do have interpreters with us. If they could come forward and say hello and let people who might need that know where they are and where they should be met, that would be great.
Меня зовут Татьяна, если вам нужен русский переводчик, я буду находиться сзади комнаты. Спасибо.
Xin chào quý vị, con là người nói tiếng Việt. Nếu quý vị cần thông dịch viên tiếng Việt thì quý vị có thể đến đây và chúng ta sẽ đi xin lấy những cái
Thank you. Before we get started, I'm going to read the testimony instructions and then call the first three speakers to the testimony table, which is up here. After I call the first three folks, I'll also actually call the next three, the next three, and I'm going to ask you to sit in the chairs right over here. Sorry, that's why they were reserved. So that we can move through this as quickly as possible, or so that we can hear it. We're not trying to rush your testimony, but so that we can make this as efficient as we possibly can. And just a reminder that if you've given your testimony, or if you and your group have given your testimony, or you feel like you need to leave, obviously you're welcome to do that, but we ask that you please do so quietly. Oftentimes in the back, when people get to the back, they think they've kind of exited, and it gets really hard, as you guys heard when we started, it gets really hard to hear in here. So if when you go to leave, if you could exit quietly, that would be greatly appreciated. So with that, I'm going to call our first three speakers, and I will probably mispronounce names, and I apologize for that. Gail Castillo, Consuelo Zaragoza, and Charles McGee. In the three chairs over here that will be speaking next, if I could have Mark Bond, Kimberly Bakken, and Jane Greenhelg, that would be great. When you get up, if you could spell your last name for the record. And a green light will come on. You'll have 2 minutes. Excuse me. Miss Houston? Miss Houston? Are we doing 1 minute for a green light, 30 seconds for a yellow light?
30 seconds for the yellow.
You're right. So when you come up, there will be a green light on for 1 minute. The yellow light will come on, and that will at 30 seconds. And then a red light will come on at 2 minutes, just so you're familiar with the process. Welcome.
I'm confused, but I'll speak quickly.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Gail Castillo. I'm the president of the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber, and owner of a small business, and also an owner of a house in Portland, just for tax reasons. I'm here to urge the board to meet its commitment, to continue to meet its commitment to the communities of colors in the racial equity policy that you adopted. Specifically, during budget times, there's always a competition for resources. I'm urging you to financially support those students who have the greatest academic needs and can make the most gains given your attention in the form of relevant instruction and academic support. Latinos, for example, represent 15% of the Portland Public Schools students. Employers need these students, all students, to succeed in reading, math, and science. That will not happen until they continue to, that will not happen if they continue to fall further and further behind in the basic subjects. The advancement of students of color is not just about the Portland Public School District. This is also about the city of Portland and the state of Oregon. If our school district cannot close the achievement gap for our students of color, which are the fastest growing demographic in our state, we will fail as a city and we will fail as a state. Employers will not stay in a geographic area where the children of their employees cannot excel. The consequences of businesses moving out is less students, less funding, less teachers, less taxes to support not only education, but all the other important services that we need in the city and in our state. We are asking you to prioritize the academic achievement of students of color. I'm almost through. Align resources.
I'm going to try to be really, I'm sorry, so that we can get
I've got
through.
four more
comments?
points. Align resources to close the achievement gap, hire more diverse staff, continue your equity efforts in contracting, and provide additional funding for schools that have high poverty levels and high levels of communities of color. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. My name is Consuelo Zaragoza, and I'm a community member, a parent of a student in PPS schools, and a representative of the Oregon Latino Agenda for Action Board. I'm here this evening to first thank you for the work that you do on behalf of all students for Portland Public Schools. I know that the many budget decisions that you make are not easy, nor does the budget fill all the gaps. And I know that you have the best interest of all students in mind as you deliberate this budget. Your adoption of the racial equity policy becomes evident yearly, and especially during the budget cycles. You have taken steps to prioritize equity in this budget. The racial equity policy moves the district to its commitment to differentiate resources, which over time moves to close the achievement gap as an example, a discussion that has gone on for too many years. Where all students should have the opportunity to be successful, we know that there are students of color, English language learners, and students with disabilities that have not had the full benefit of success yet. Your bold decision is the right thing to do. Prioritizing equity in this budget can only move all students to benefit. By keeping your budget decision whole, it will undoubtedly provide education gains for students, but the key is keeping it whole to be able to relish the accomplishments that are talked about time and time again during budget cycles. We, our schools, instill and talk about hope, commitment, opportunity, inspiration, rigor, college bound, and what is paramount is the action that makes these words a reality for families and their students. Today, I attended the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce Scholarship Luncheon, students being acknowledged for their hard work, their high school success, their personal commitment, their family commitment, and yes, their school's commitment. I hope that your courageous leadership, at the end of the day, will stay steady. We are all in this together. Thank you.
I will try to follow up these two amazing people. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Charles McGee, and I'm with the Black Parent Initiative, and I will be extremely short. 3 points. One, thanks for your bold leadership around equity. We live in a town where these buzzwords are thrown around a lot, and this is an opportunity to demonstrate what you believe in. One of the things, in communities of color that we've sort of come to realize is that budgets say more than words do. And so we want to thank you for your leadership, we want to thank you for your time, and we want to, urge you to continue down that path.
Thank you. So next up at the table is Mark Bond, Kimberly Bakken, and Jane Greenhalgh. Coming up to the chairs in front to be next after these three are Sarah Tetriel, Michael Alexander, and Don Gavitt. I do want to remind folks that if you find yourself short on time, and in 2 minutes you probably will, you're welcome to submit your written testimony if you have something written to Ms. Houston. I also want to acknowledge that this is being televised and recorded. It'll be available on our website after this. And I also want to acknowledge that Director Regan really wanted to be here, and she was unable to attend due to a previous engagement. But she will be getting a DVD of it, and I know that she will be watching it with interest. So thank you.
Hi, and thank you for listening. My name is Kimberly Bakken, B-A-K-K-E-N, and my comments tonight concern high schools. And I wanted to share a conversation that I had with my son over the weekend. We were talking about what our week was looking like ahead, and I shared with him that I had 3 commitments after work this week, and apologized for being out of the house more than usual. But I said the commitments were really important to me, and so I wanted to explain what they were. And suddenly I saw that teenage glaze come over his eyes. And I told him, well, Monday night I have a meeting at Lincoln High School to discuss the impact of the proposed budget. And Tuesday night I'm going to listen to a candidate who's running for the board who everyone says is going to be fabulous. And Wednesday night I'm going to speak at the school board and address the board and Superintendent Smith. And suddenly he looked up from his phone and said, what do you mean you're speaking? And at first I thought he might have been impressed by his civic-minded mother, but no, he thought I might embarrass him, so he wanted to know what I was going to talk about. And he came back to me on Monday and he goes, Mom, I really don't think you should talk on Wednesday. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, I think it's going to be stressful. And I said, yeah, you're right. It definitely is. And then I said, well, why else do you think? And he goes, well, and kind of looked down and he said, my friends and I have been planning our schedules for next year, and we've got it figured out that if we do late arrival and have a hole in our schedule either before or after lunch and then get early dismissal, it's going to be perfect. And we're all trying to get our schedules together. And all of a sudden my heart sank and tears actually welled up in my eyes, and I knew that that wasn't your intention, nor is it mine, to think that telling the kids, hey, you can do this in your spare time going to high school. It just takes a few hours. So I want to thank you for your focus on equity, and I really appreciate that you've made that. Okay, if we have one missing person, could we take just 10 extra seconds?
We have about 80 people behind you that want to do it.
That went really fast.
It does.
But I want to thank you for your efforts, and also share that it's been deeply devastating to me and my family what's happening with high schools, and I'm asking you to make a change.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Jane Greenhalgh, Greenhalgh. I wanted my daughter to testify tonight because you've heard from me before, but she's stressed out as her IB psychology exam is next week. Kids in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Europe will all take the same exam on the same day, but the kids from Portland are at a disadvantage. They haven't finished the curriculum yet. Eve's psychology teacher was upfront at the beginning of the year that due to the lost instruction time in the 6 of 8 schedule, it would be impossible for him to teach the entire course. So here they are a week before the exam, and to quote the teacher, they just have to find a way to learn the material on their own because we simply don't have enough seat hours in each class to cover the material. It's the same in other IB and AP classes. Teachers have to rush through the material so quickly it's hard to grasp, or they leave chunks out. The stress on our high school teachers and students is tremendous. Since 2007, you've cut high schools at twice the rate of everyone else. We feel high school students deserve access to a full day of school just like elementary and middle school students. Despite my daughter's stress, she's lucky she's taking 7 classes. Under the current proposal, my son Max would be restricted to 6 classes as a junior and their 6 shorter classes. Already Max has got a raw deal. As a freshman, my daughter chose 7 classes out of 7 periods and enjoyed a full day of school. Max forecast this year for 7 classes out of an 8-period day. A large study hall was chosen for him. Thankfully, you rethought your original proposal to take another class away from Max, but you haven't gone far enough. We applaud you for trying to address equity. We realize you had to do something about the loss of federal poverty money. We applaud you for investing in the earlier grades. It's important to prepare kids for high school. But if you continue to cut instruction hours and teachers from high school, what are you preparing them for? You may consider a large study hall a class, but colleges do not. I just want to say, not one of the wonderful parents I've met through the Northeast, Southeast, and Wilson and Lincoln coalitions have ever said you should do less for disadvantaged students.
Yes, thank you.
Just do more for high school students.
Thank you. So the next 3 to the table are Sarah Tetriel, Michael Alexander, Don Gavitt. And then the next three that will join us up front in the chairs waiting to be next will be Crystal Schillingford, Dina Temkin, and Amy Comstam. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Sara Tetreault, Tetreault, and I am the parent of 2 children, an 8th grader at Mount Tabor Middle School and a sophomore at Franklin High School. As someone who writes about best practices around managing one's commitments, budgets, and households, I have struggled to reconcile the poor use of time, not to mention youth, dictated by our high school schedules. Budgets are all about stating priorities and putting the resources behind the things you value most. Parents across the city can't figure out why high schools ended up at the end of a long list of priorities in the budget. With more than $450 million to work with, surely PPS can find a way to prioritize funding to make sure that all Portland High School students have access to a full and robust school day. The proposed budget unduly hurts high school students. There's no question that's true, and it's been true for 2 long years. I urge you to fill the classrooms first so that every student can take a full schedule and build out from there. Re-examine every line item with one driving principle. Does this tap into a student's desire to grow and learn and succeed? If not, leave it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Alexander, and I'm President and Chief Executive Officer of the Urban League of Portland. Many things have been said today which I know will make the decisions that you face very difficult. In many ways, you are making Sophie's choice, and I understand that. I would ask, however, that in the course of your decisions, you identify a North Star, something that you look at consistently throughout that. And I believe that the racial, educational equity policy and plan has got to remain your North Star. During difficult times of budget cuts, it's human nature to often try to first preserve what you have. But I will tell you that if that is the path that is chosen, you will further memorialize many of the disparities and the achievement gaps that we find so unacceptable today. The path forward, I believe, is one that looks to meet the needs of all of Portland's children by meeting the needs of all of Portland's children. And I ask that you keep that in mind in your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Don Gavitt, G-A-V-I-T-T-E. I'm a teacher at Grant High School. I'm a father of a Da Vinci middle school student and a father of a Buckman elementary school student. I'm also the founder of UPSET, United Parents, Students, and Educators Together. As you guys know, because many of you are UPSET members, we are part of the reason together for the reason why we're talking about $6.75 billion and not less. Not the whole reason, but we're part of the reason. And I want to remind you tonight that a big reason why the UPSET rally last year and the subsequent movement that came out of it was so successful was because the majority of people there were high school students. The majority of people marching, the people who run the website, and everything. In your decisions that you make, please think about what the asked for proposed $5.9 million can do for high schools. Our con team just won nationals. This is a con team where the teacher who taught con team at one time was going to volunteer as a 7th class to do the con team, okay? It didn't end up being that way, but those are the kind of decisions we make. I know the Japanese immersion is clear, but not the neighborhood Japanese. These kind of things have tremendous amount of influence in keeping those adolescents in our building throughout the entire day and helping them make good decisions through the rest of their life. The parent that talked before about the big gap in schedules, we have an intern in our counseling department who has already shown with research, and I will forward it to you, that is having a devastating effect on GPAs overall. Please consider not cutting high schools again. We are already illegitimately funded as is. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three up are Crystal Schillingford, Dina Temkin, and Amy Comstan. And the next three that can join us up here to get ready to testify next would be Mei Chang, Ryan Lee, and Queenie Samuel. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dina Temkin, Temkin. I'm a parent to a freshman at Wilson High School and a fifth grader at Stevenson Elementary. My kids are pretty opposite. One is an academic achiever, very driven. The other has IEP, ADHD, reading disability, math disability, anxiety disorder, a lot of things making it difficult for her to succeed. The way that the proposed budget, I'm really the proponent of trying to get more teachers and FTE in the high schools, because for my older child, she needs to be more rigorously prepared for college. With the six class schedule, she's not going to be able to take a full day of classes. She'll have a TA or a study hall, and she's not going to be as prepared as she needs to be to get in the schools she wants to get into. For my younger one, they're cutting special ed instructors everywhere in the district, but also at Wilson, and that's going to have a really devastating effect to the kids with IEP needs. I'll keep it short. Thanks.
Thank you. So the next three to the table are Mei Chang, Ryan Lee, and Queenie Samuel. And if next I could have come join us up front, Jamal Dr, Idmis Kasim, Leslie Hammer.
You wish me to start?
Yes, please.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, students, faculty, and other concerned citizens. My name is Queenie Samuel. I was one of the original signers of the Good Neighbor Agreement between Concordia Neighborhood Association and Joseph L. Meek, now Alliance Professional Technical High School. The Good Neighbor Agreement was signed and adopted in February 2004. I must admit I was not fond of losing our great school, but the decision was already made by the time neighbors were fully aware of the plans, which is why I'm here this evening. I don't want to lose again. The proposal to reduce staff at Meek is not in keeping with the resolution which you just adopted on the 22nd of April this year. Let me remind you that you renewed your support for Measure 26-150, which in essence says you did so because it is dedicated to supporting Portland's children, supporting proven programs that designed to help children. They arrive at school ready to learn, help foster these children, prevent child abuse, neglect, and family violence. These are the attributes the students at Meek are learning and the staff provide in a supportive atmosphere. The students at Meek are learning to be productive citizens. I have a photo I want to share with you when I finish. Reducing the level for interaction between students and staff at Meek would be highly detrimental for their learning process. We all know the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, in this instance, for students who have not been successful in the mainstream education process, they need more. They may need that one-on-one. Would it not be better to save one than to lose one? I know my buzzer is peaking yellow, and I want to share this photo with you. This is Ruby Quavado Ponce, and I didn't pronounce her name right. But this is she last week with her child in her cap and gown and her diploma, a proud mother and graduate of Joseph Meek Professional Technical High School. This is what one-on-one learning can do for you. It helps a student know that they can be successful. Just because you have a child, just because you're in an alternative school, does not mean that you can't be successful. Please consider and keep them at your priority and with your proposal that you just made.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Ryan Lee. I'm just going to read this due to the lack of time. I'm a junior at Franklin High School. In 8th grade, I faced a choice of whether to attend Central Catholic or my neighborhood school, Franklin. My sister attended Central and had a great experience. She had classes that prepared her for college and met friends that she still sees today. After months of indecision, I decided to go to Franklin. It was simply the better choice. It was close, many of my good friends were going there, and it had the most AP classes offered in Franklin, not to mention the phenomenal woodshop program and mock trial team. I, along with my peers and their parents, were very excited about Franklin. Little did I know that with every passing year, the new public school budget cuts would continue to affect me in numerous different ways. With Marshall High School closing down my freshman year and absorbing about half their students to Franklin my sophomore year, as well as the drop of available classes from 7 classes to 6 my junior year, my fellow classmates and I have truly felt the impact of the recent budget cuts. Now, even more is being cut from my senior year, and I simply will not stand for it. It is completely unfair to restrict students who want to learn and want to take more classes to a mere 6 classes a year. School is becoming a waste of time. I am currently enrolled in 4 AP courses, and I still want more of a challenge. I wanted to take AP Biology as well this year, but unfortunately the class was dropped due to lack of funds and enrollment. This was the same with AP Physics and AP Calculus BC. Isn't the point of high school to educate the youth, develop their character, and prepare them for college? By depriving students the chance to take challenging courses or elective courses where students can pursue their passions, aren't you depriving them of all 3 of these goals? Furthermore, this year alone, I've been put into 2 different classes where there are 2 different level students learning from the same teacher. My 4th year Chinese class has been mixed with the 3rd year Chinese class, and it simply does not work. The same goes for my Spanish class. The 4th year Spanish class and the AP Spanish classes are mixed together to form a dysfunctional waste of time. In just under a week, I will be taking the AP Spanish exam, and I am hopelessly unprepared. It isn't the teacher's fault. It is impossible to prepare students for an AP exam when you have to teach to students that are at completely different levels. This has to stop. We must find a way to get enough teachers to have different level students in different classes. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, please, so we can get through, folks, but I appreciate that. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mei Chang. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a parent of a junior at Franklin High School, Ryan, and a senior at U of O. I know, bottom line, we need better, stable funding for our schools in our state. This is why, year after year, for the past 16 years, I have dreaded the yearly budget cuts. I know that it's a tough choice for you to find the most appropriate cuts. I do not believe any more cuts to high school instruction time are appropriate this time around. Franklin High School band instructor has been cut to half-time. He has beginning, middle, and advanced students all in one period. Like my son said, his Chinese class has 3rd year and 4th year kids in one classroom. His Spanish class has 4th year and AP Spanish in one classroom. I would like to pose some questions that I do not understand. How does one teacher teach these different levels all in one class period and engage all students well? Why is study hall called study hall? How can students study in a cafeteria with hundreds of students with one hall monitor? Would high school daycare be a more appropriate description? Why is it okay to cut high school students' day of instruction but not middle school or grade school students to balance the budget? Not that I'm saying to cut them, but I just don't understand the difference between the two. Why do we spend millions of dollars to hire outside consultants to research and come up with a high school redesign plan that 2 years later we are in uproar about? Why did families receive an expensive quality cardstock mailer at their homes 2 years ago from PPS describing how exciting our high school students will be able to take 8 classes with a new redesign plan, when just days earlier our principal tells us that it was not possible for her to fund 8 classes and that study hall, early dismissal, or late arrival will be mandatory? Why did we switch to a 6 of 8 schedule 2 years ago when other school districts around Oregon at the same time were switching back to the 5 of 7 schedule? Why do we continue to put money into implementing, changing how we teach reading, writing, and arithmetic only to cycle back to methods we have used before?
Thank you.
Can I just say a little bit more?
What?
Why do we continue to have money to make these changes but not have money to have the basics of enough teachers to teach every student of a full day of quality instruction? I do not understand these things, but I do know that we need to prioritize our limited funds directly to student education in the classroom and provide a full day of quality instruction for all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jamal Jar, Idmis Kassim, and Leslie Hammer. And then if we could have come join us in front in the 3 chairs that will be next, Sarah Onitsuka, Alison Little, and Kosumu Tani Hughes. Go ahead. Good.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity tonight. My name is Jamal Dr. I'm Executive Director for African Youth and Community Organization, Aiko. I am so excited to be here tonight. We are located based over the schools to make sure all children successfully achieve their educational milestone. As waves of refugee children and their family continue to be relocated to the United States, upon arriving in this strange new society, immigrants and children are faced with clarity and language period. Somali immigrant faces big challenge with lack of clarity, education background, new culture, society, and environment. These families and children struggle to fit in this life. We all know literacy is a person who can at least read and write one language. That's not the case for our community. Somali students cannot read and write, and because they were born in refugee camp, never went to school, and do not know anything about in school. Kids are being enrolled in school based on their ages. 15 years old can be high school and not even learn ABC or 1, 2, 3, or don't even know how to read. Frustration started there. Aiko goals to include cultivate leadership and active participant with the immigrant and refugee community, including parents' involvement, who will act as a bridge to the wider community of the Portland area, who will target investment to accelerate gains in our education and in our graduation rates, especially Somalis. We support early literacy and increase student achievement among historic underserved students. We provide free homework, tutoring, and sports activity, and return making sure kids pass and have better grades. We please beg you again and again not to cut, but increase their budgets, especially those refugees who are overwhelming coming. There's monthly, every month, 5 families arriving from Africa and 3 different refugees. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, and thank you for your opportunity. My name is Idris Kasim, Youth Educational Coordinator of African Youth and Community Organization, Aiko. I was 17 years old when I arrived US. I didn't know how to speak English, not even able to read and write. And I never had the opportunity to go to school because there is no school in a refugee camp. They put me in high school, and it's very difficult to catch up, and faced many challenges which I couldn't mention all here. Then I was involved Aiko, and who quitted me since, such as tutoring, consulting, and providing resources such as night school and after school programs. At the same time, teaching me reading, writing weekend, which is Aiko have to aid younger students with their studies. I'm glad to say I have a successful graduate high school, but I couldn't do without Aiko support. I'm now in PCC PSU on my way to graduate business administration degree, and I'm now giving back what Aiko give it to me. Aiko primary goal is to encourage immigrant and refugee youth towards higher education, positive activists, and active engagement in their community. College students help out high school students, and middle school kids help out elementary. Very active system. I'm happy to be part of it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Leslie Hammer, Hammer. I'm a professor of psychology at Portland State University. I moved to Portland 22 and a half years ago, right after Measure 5 was implemented. I have watched what's happened in this state. I understand the stress that you're under. I understand the stress that the state's under. But I still feel that we need major changes. I am a mother. I'm a mother of a child at Wilson High School, who's a sophomore, and a son at Jackson Middle School in 7th grade. I'm also the daughter of a man who worked for the U.S. Department of Education in the Center for Educational Statistics to try to understand and help improve education across this country for 20 years. I'm very, very concerned about the issues around length of school day, and that's what I'm speaking to today. I am concerned not for my own sake. I have the resources, I have the ability to care for my kids, I have the resources to get my kids enrolled in after-school activities. I'm concerned for our at-risk youth. I'm very concerned. When kids get out of school at 12:55 in the day, at least one time a week, 1:40, another time, 2:15, another time, every single week. This is not acceptable. It is not acceptable for kids to have full afternoons with nothing to do, and when they are at risk, it is very, very concerning. I feel this is a public health issue. I study issues related to work and family. I study how to increase workplace supports for working families, and I feel that we are at risk for potentially injuring society because we are not supporting our at-risk youth.
Thank you. Next up are, I realize you're a group of 5, so these 5 folks have all signed up. They're going to take 9 minutes among the 5 of them. So it's a net savings of 1 minute. So if you guys want to come up, Sarah Onitsuka, Alison Little, Cosmo, Tani Hughes, Sophia Penrose, and Caleb Walcott. And if I could have the next 3 join us in the chairs up front, Vanessa Smith, Roberta Richards, and Julia Bream Edwards. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening. My name is Caleb Walcott, W-A-L-C-O-T-T. Currently, I'm a sophomore at Grant High School, and I've been in the Japanese immersion program for 11 years now. I'd like to thank you all very much for the opportunity to speak with you all today. Let me preface my speech by saying that it is discouraging that during this difficult budget time, when we should be supporting our fellow high schoolers advocating for a full school day, that I've been forced by the decisions of our school administrators and the tough budget cuts to be here advocating for the preservation of the Japanese language program at Grant. I'd like to quote an article from the PPS website that said, "The district's goal is to increase student retention in the Japanese immersion program, increase the number of students who achieve advanced levels of language and cultural proficiency, and expand outside the classroom learning. Its efforts are expected to be a model for other districts." The decision made by the Grant administration due to these budget cuts has completely undermined these goals. By cutting staffing for the immersion program and eliminating the non-immersion Japanese language classes, it will be impossible for these goals to be achieved. We are positioned here in Oregon to be leaders in Japanese language acquisition. As a Pacific Rim state, we have many Japanese businesses that rely on an educated workforce. To cite the Consul General of Japan, there are over 100 Japanese companies in the greater Portland area providing nearly 5,000 jobs for the local population. Japan is also the 4th largest trading partner for Oregon and the United States. This shows the economic and business values of learning Japanese and why we need to preserve this program. Additionally, we've received over 900 signatures on petitions from community members and folks from all around the world who are in support of maintaining this Japanese program, and people are still signing it right now. These numbers are important, but now I'd like to give you a different view and have some of my classmates say how this program has impacted their lives and why it is important to them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alison Little, L-I-T-T-L-E. Litoru Alison to moushimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. I am a junior at Grant High School and am the president of Seito Kai, the student council that represents all the students in the Japanese program at Grant. 幼稚園に日本語の勉強を始めた JMP の生徒です。I began studying Japanese in kindergarten at Richmond Elementary School through the Japanese immersion program. Sadly, last week we received news from the Grant administration that all the Japanese studies were to be cut next year. But the district stepped in and made sure the Japanese immersion program will remain at Grant next year, and for that, I'd like to say on behalf of the entire immersion program, thank you very much. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. However, the non-immersion classes are still slated to be discontinued, and Grant will lose 1 full-time Japanese teacher. This is a huge loss to the program, Grant High School, and the entire city. Over the past 10 years, Japanese programs have been cut from 4 PPS high schools: Lincoln, Cleveland, Wilson, and Franklin. The only remaining high schools with Japanese are Grant and Roosevelt only has 2 years of beginning Japanese. In order to preserve our amazing program at Grant, we need the continued high school funding from the district. Without it, all these great opportunities that our program brings will not be possible.
My name is Sara Onitsuka, Onitsuka, and I am a junior at Grant High School. I'm enrolled in the immersion program at Grant, and I'm also the first youth representative of the Portland Sapporo Sister City Association. I'd like to talk to you about the relationship between Portland, Oregon and Sapporo, Japan, and how this relates to the Japanese program at Grant High School. Portland and Sapporo have been sister cities since 1959, and this was the first sister city relationship for both cities. Though Portland and Sapporo are on opposite sides of the world, our sister city relationship is active and it is ongoing. The official Sister City Agreement states that Portland and Sapporo share common values and interests in the areas of the economy, the environment, culture, and education. Most of these are still going strong today, all except education. Like Alison said, only 2 high schools here teach Japanese. If the non-immersion courses are cut, this number would be reduced to just 1 high school that offers beginning Japanese. With the cultural and historical benefits we have received from the sister city relationship, as well as the economic benefits, this would be a great disservice to Sapporo. Grant High School in particular is very important to the relationship between Portland and Sapporo. Since Roosevelt's program is really still growing and expanding, all high school exchanges have been through Grant High School. This past January, around 30 Sapporo students visited Portland, and many non-immersion and immersion students were able to host them. In March, Grant Japanese students Skyped with members of a design class at Hiragishi High School in Sapporo to preview their digital picture books of famous Japanese stories. Most recently, the Consul General of Japan announced that 23 non-immersion students will be able to visit Japan this summer. It will be funded entirely by the Japanese government. I was elected to the Portland Sapporo Sister City Organization's board as a representative of all the Grant Japanese program students, because the other board members thought it was necessary, considering Grant's Japanese program's role in maintaining the sister city relationship. Without these exchanges back and forth, I fear the strong tie between Portland and Sapporo will be severed. As you can see, this program does not only affect the community of Grant High School, it affects the entire city of Portland.
Hi, my name is Cosmo Hughes, and I'm a junior at Grant High School, currently in the Japanese immersion program since kindergarten. This year, I decided to become a teacher's assistant for the non-immersion 3rd and 4th year Japanese class. I never experienced a Japanese class outside of the immersion program, so going in and seeing non-immersion students being just as passionate and excited about the Japanese language, although they had only started their freshman year, was really inspiring. These students are not only taking Japanese as their second language because of the language requirements for graduating high school, but also because they plan to use this language to help them furthermore in their future and career. Majority of these students are planning to continue Japanese after graduating high school, especially because knowing the Japanese language helps to open many doors for these students. 13 out of the 21 students in the class that I TA for, the decision to come to Grant was greatly influenced by the fact that Grant offers Japanese. Being able to give students who were not previously in the immersion program the chance to learn the Japanese language and culture is very vital and important to the Portland community, and to allow options for the students when they choose their languages.
Hello, my name is Sophia Penrose, Penrose. I'm a sophomore at Grant High School, and I'm almost done with my 2nd year of non-immersion Japanese. I want to stick with it throughout high school and continue classes in college and beyond. Some people choose to take Japanese because of their heritage. Some people choose to take Japanese because of the culture. Some people just choose it out of pure curiosity. I moved to Portland a couple months into 8th grade. My parents chose to move into Grant's neighborhood because of its reputation of being a great school and its unique class choices. When it was time to forecast for freshman year, I chose Japanese. I chose Japanese because I had never seen it offered at a school before. I chose Japanese because I wanted to be intellectually challenged. I chose Japanese because I heard I had some of the best teachers at Grant, and I chose Japanese because I was interested in learning the language. I have never regretted that decision. Japanese has been more than just a language class. I have learned the basics of the Japanese language and culture, but it has also helped me in other ways. While learning Japanese, you have to force your brain to make new connections and think harder. I have noticed it helping me in both math and science. Also, through learning the grammar rules of this new language, I have learned more about English grammar than in any other class. Losing Japanese would be, for many students, losing a culture. Before I started taking Japanese, I knew little to nothing about Japan, a problem because Japan is becoming a more and more prominent country. Losing Japanese for the community would make us less diverse and the Grant neighborhood in high school would lose appeal. Japanese comes with many opportunities outside of class. I've been to festivals, movies, and all sorts of cultural experiences. There are opportunities to travel to Japan, and there are opportunities for us to volunteer with the large Japanese community in Portland. We take advantage of these opportunities. We are motivated to learn through our activities as well as through our classes. We want to keep learning. We need more funding so we can keep the non-emergent Japanese courses going. We need to keep Grant's classes diverse. We need to keep Portland's youth competitive and up to par with the rest of the country. We need to keep our school's courses relevant to the community and the world around us.
Can you wrap up your comments?
It's almost done. We need you to help us. We ask you to please consider our testimonies today. Japanese is not only important to us in the program, but it is important to the entire population of Grant High School, all of Portland, and Japan. It is important for educational continuity, and it is important for businesses and the economy. Help us keep this vital program. We can only continue to thrive with your funding and support. Thank you for your time.
Next up, we have Vanessa Smith, Roberta Richards, and Julia Bream Edwards. And the next three people, if you could come join us up in the front seats, would be Mary Welch, Lou Limbriano, and Tom Kane. And you can start as soon as you're ready.
Cool. My name is Vanessa Smith. My last name is spelled S-M-I-T-H. I am the proud parent of 3 children who have been served by Portland Public Schools since they were approximately 3 months old. They were involved in early intervention. And the reason I'm here to speak to you today is as a parent of 3 special needs children who are also children of color, and who are 2 of whom are placed into fragile, self-contained behavior classrooms. I spoke before you last year regarding the cuts to the mental health professionals when the district chose to remove mental health supports 5 days a week and then replace it with mental health support 1 day a week. Since that time, I found that PPS's plans for next year do not have any support for these children's mental health needs. This concerns me not only for my children, but for the children in these special ed classes. They are self-contained. African Americans are disproportionately represented in these classrooms, and we are removing the supports from our most at-risk children in grades K through 12. There are 4 programs that have been cut for next year. You're combining fragile behavior kids with explosive behavior kids. So my sons who have depression, anxiety, and internalize everything that goes on around them will be placed in classrooms with children who act out on their anger and their behavior and their mental health. And my sons, as well as every other child in those classrooms, mental health supports have been removed as of next year. The direction PPS is taking in regards to the special education placement and support of students of color who are disproportionately overrepresented is totally not in line with its equity policy. Please reconsider your qualified mental health professional cuts, the blending of fragile and external behavior classrooms, and the cuts to the special education behavior TOSAs who support the students in these classrooms. I ask that you reconsider these decisions not only for Carter and Jermaine, but for their classmates. These are our most fragile children, the ones at most risk. And to remove these supports they currently have is a cut we cannot afford to make.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
My name's Roberta Richards, and my daughter is a freshman at Franklin High School. My son is a Franklin graduate and currently a college student at Stanford University, and I'm also on the faculty at Portland Community College. So speaking first as a parent, when my son was at Franklin just a couple of years ago, he received a full day of instruction, which was really good, as now he's in very fast-paced classrooms. My daughter, now at Franklin, does not have comparable education, and many people have spoke to that, so I'm going to move to my experiences at PCC. As you know, many Portland Public High School graduates go to college at PCC, especially students of color and low income. Now, having a high school diploma from is not enough to be able to take college level classes at PCC. First, you have to take placement tests that show that you have the basic skills in reading, writing, and math. And a rather startling number of high school graduates are not passing these tests. I have some data from fall of 2012. And so of recent Oregon high school graduates that enrolled at PCC last fall, 23% of them failed the reading test, 26% of them failed the writing test. For math, the failure rate was 84%. Currently, PCC teaches more pre-college math classes than college-level math classes. I work with these students every day. There's so much frustration. They are incurring debt to pay for classes which earn them no college credit. The administration, of course, is frustrated as well. We have been charged with supporting the Governor Kitzhaber's 40-40-20 goal, as well as President Obama's completion agenda, and these are very hard things to do with so many high school students unprepared to do college-level work. Obviously, these are very complex issues requiring complex solutions, but one thing I think is very clear, very clear, that cutting instruction time will not help. That more instruction time is needed so that students can gain the reading, writing, math, and critical thinking skills they need for success in high school and in life. So I hope that funding for instruction time will be a priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Julia Bream Edwards. I'm a Portland parent and a PPS alum, and I'm here today to share my perspective as a former member of the school board. Members of the board, 6 of the 8 of you, but don't get that number stuck in your head, you either sought me out when you were running for the board, or I asked you or encouraged you to run. You asked for my support, and in many cases I connected you with other parents or school leaders. I'm pretty sure I told you that I loved serving on the board, and that it was a powerfully rewarding experience given it provides you an opportunity to really make a difference for students, their future, and the community. I think being on the school board is the best job in elected public service. It may not always seem like that, but I think it is. And I'm pretty sure I also told you that it was an incredibly challenging, complex responsibility, and that parents in the community were going to hold you accountable for how their children were supported or weren't. And also that you needed to keep a laser focus on student needs first and the needs of adults second. 2 years ago, I was dismayed that PPS leadership cut a deal to go to a modified high school schedule, extracted 45 teachers from the high school, and barreled into the next school year with a system that took from students the most precious thing the school district has to give them, which is time with a teacher. When this year's budget rolled around, it became clear that high school students were once again getting the shaft. Parents and students decided they couldn't be silent any longer. Knowing each of you, I know that you wouldn't intentionally lower standards and devalue a PPS diploma, but that is exactly what is happening. 83% of our high school students do not have a full school day. They're in effect part-time students. I'm asking that you now do your job as board members, set high standards, ask questions, come up with a plan to add the necessary high school teachers back, provide direction to the superintendent, and keep your focus on students. Refuse to be the board that prevents students from taking classes. That sounds so ridiculous, but that's the current reality. You're preventing students from taking classes. Please push for a solution rather than shrugging your shoulders and asking parents where to find the money in your $487 million budget. We'll help you, but you need to lead. So now's your moment, and the students are counting on you. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mary Welch, Lou Limbriano, Tom Kane. And if we could get the next 3 people to join us up front in the seats is Ali Ibrahim, Tony Pham, and Tracy Barton. And while they're getting ready, I will agree with Ms. Bream Edwards that it is the most rewarding work. Not always the easiest, but it is the most rewarding work with the dedication to our kids. Thank you. You can please start.
Good evening. I'll try to do this in 3 minutes. I know
2 minutes.
2 minutes, oh my
Sorry,
goodness.
we cut
Okay,
it to
so
2 minutes.
I know that many of our faces are very familiar to many of you, and there's a reason for that. And for the newer board members, this is a cohort of families and students who had their elementary schools closed, who were reconfigured to a K-8 with the hope of restoring art, music, PE, and instead we were scrambling to get funding for algebra. We lost science electives, and there was little funding, and people lost world language as well. Then we started the high school redesign with high hopes. We suffered the grief of the loss of the only school in outer southeast and one of the most diverse schools. We've been through small schools, the return to a larger comprehensive school, and now we're back again advocating to hopefully actually implement the core curriculum. I don't understand why we can't do this. We have just, our students are the group that have been cut. And I don't understand how the achievement gap can be closed if students are finished with school by 1 p.m. I don't understand how equity goals can be achieved if students aren't even in school till 2:15. Both things have to be done. The equity funding has to be maintained, and kids need the opportunity of time in class to utilize the supports they're receiving through the equity funding. You can't do one without the other. That's just counterintuitive, and I know you all know that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lou Imbriano, Imbriano, and I'm a junior at Franklin High School. I'm a part of the class of 2014, the class that was told that they were no longer allowed to transfer to schools that weren't their primary neighborhood school. Franklin had a reputation as a school that needed more support and more resources. However, having said that, Franklin to me has been great. Franklin is full of people who are committed beyond reason. I was in an AP class that had 50 kids in it after Franklin lost one AP teacher we couldn't replace. My AP teacher, knowing the situation, decided to step in and take everyone because that's the kind of person he is. We have people who year after year step up and take on more. Franklin, even more than other Portland public schools, has suffered a beating from the profuse amount of budget cuts. They have had to incorporate part of another school into their own, overcrowd classes, and have to continuously cut teachers and precious resources that they couldn't possibly afford to lose. However, Franklin has somehow always managed to bounce back. At some point it won't, and at some point it will be pushed too far. Limiting the amount of classes that kids can take is not something that Franklin or any other school could possibly handle, because this isn't just restricting them from an elective that can be replaced. This would be restricting them from basic learning and classes that can be crucial to a student's academic advancement. By doing this, you're tying a hand behind the back of every student who has to leave Portland and compete with other students in the real world. You don't want Portland to become known as a place where kids don't get a full education. Don't cut the number of classes that we can take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Kane, teacher at Alliance High School in Portland State University. I was told 3 minutes. This budget as proposed will be the death knell of a publicly administered alternative education in Portland Public Schools. I'm going to have to go fast. It will fund Alliance High School at the same level as comprehensive high schools for all their good work are unable to meet the needs of our students. So we're to bring these highly marginalized students who often enter at below high school reading levels, who've dropped out of school, to standards without many of the amenities of comprehensives. No athletic program, no art studio, no comprehensive science lab, no drama, no music, no gym, no newspaper, no PE. You get the picture. What makes it work is personalized individual attention that our students receive. In fact, when one looks at definitions of successful alternatives to traditional schooling, you discover that personalized individual instruction is the cornerstone of alternative education. One of the essential components of our school are the professional technical strands. These classes satisfy the needs of our students to get a break from the rigors of academic work while preparing them for trade programs. They are limited in the number of students that they can serve due to the limitations of space and the danger of the equipment. This means that the slated increase in limitations of space or danger, it will heavily impact our academic programs, which it should be noted have recently succeeded in raising our writing scores above both district and state averages. It should be also noted that these packed classes are set in elementary-sized school classrooms housing adult-sized students. Part of what I think distinguishes our school is the way that we are able to successfully serve in the same classroom tag kids, special needs kids, kids with mental health issues, high achievers and low readers, kids with engaged parents and kids whose parents are in prison. They're all here, and it's truly a community of learners that learn to care for one another. But the common thread is alienation from school and the need for a second or third chance. These are the students our superintendent is proposing need fewer services. The real question is not how we fulfill our mission with 1/3 less staff. The real question is how we have managed to maintain it with only 10 teachers. It's been done with the blood, sweat, and tears of these teachers, 4 of whom are dual certified, 2 are certified in 3 subjects, 2 have created an active website that allows students to use a library portal and a place to access assignments, All the teachers run advisories. We all go to extra IEP meetings because of the higher percentage of students in special ed. We have met 80% of the parent and guardians, and several teachers have moved outside of their special areas to offer classes for students. The suggestion that we need to be more creative, made by several district administrators, feels insulting to every one of us and indicative of people who have insulated themselves from the realities of teaching and the students we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ali Ibrahim, Tony Pham, and Tracy Barton. And if the next three could join us up front, Melinda Leong, Katanya Ritchie, and Jamet Dogo, that would be great. I also want to mention that there have been a couple of teachers that have spoken, Miss Smith and Mr. Kane, and I've had the privilege of getting to see them both in action, and they are extraordinary teachers, and I thank them for coming out to talk to us. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ali Ibrahim. Ali, A-L-I, Ibrahim, I-B-R-A-H-I-M. And I work for the Family and the Community Engagement Services FACES program at the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, IRCO IFCO. The FACES program is funded by the Portland Public Schools under the Cultural Specific Family Engagement. First, I would like to thank you for the fans to run this program. It has been a great opportunity to serve more than 500 immigrants and refugees, parents, grandparents, and children throughout Portland Public Schools. Last year alone, FACES served 44 families, parents, and their children at 5 schools in PPS. Many of the African families served in the FACES program are living in a poverty and unfamiliar with mainstream system. On the top of this, many African children were unable to attend schools in their home country, and many families are unfamiliar with the education system, especially in the United States. The FACES program helps these families overcome these challenges. Immigrant and refugee parents in the FACES program attend weekly parent groups in their native language to learn more about the U.S. education system and gain tools to support their children and academic achievements. Groups provide information to parents on topics such as how to read report cards, school programs and policies, and parent-teacher conferences. Last year alone, 93% of Somali families demonstrated improved knowledge of school program and policies. IRCO FACES program has addressed disparities faced African immigrants and refugee students and families at Portland Public Schools. FACES fills the gap and supports the district vision and more equitable education for all students. I speak on behalf of IRCO IRCO and the FACES clients when I say that we support the continued funding of culturally specific families engagement. We appreciate your support of immigrant and refugee communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Jackson. I'm reading this tonight for Tracy Barton. She couldn't make it. She's out ill. Tracy is a Lincoln parent. She's our site council chair, and she sits on SACIT, so I'm very happy to read her testimony tonight. We have faced difficult school funding for many years. Over the last 5 years, the district has chosen to disproportionately disinvest in high schools, largely to spare the lower grades. The deepest cut to high schools was 2 years ago, and it really has pushed us over a tipping point. Our current high school funding is targeted to have a teacher in front of high school students on average 6 class periods a day. So we fund a school day which ends at 1:55, not a full day which is supposed to end at 3:20. Why is this tolerated? Because it is not as easy to see in our high schools as it would be in the lower grades. Imagine pulling a first grade teacher out of the classroom for 25% of the day and leaving the first graders to do what they want, and expect somehow that they will figure out the material they need to master to move on to the next level on their own. That's exactly what we are doing to our high schoolers. We have an obligation to fund schools so that all students can access the full instructional day, not just while they are in grades K through 8, but for all of the 12 years that we are responsible for them. I'm here tonight to ask you to prioritize funding high schools at a level that allows all students, freshmen through senior, to choose to learn for a full day. I believe it is the only way to make significant headway on our graduation rate. I believe this is an equity issue for our underserved students. The current 8% equity funding, although a welcomed and reassuring improvement, is inadequate to compensate for the lack of base funding at high schools. We cannot expect more money from Salem this year. We cannot wait for high school enrollment to grow. The projections add about 600 kids in 5 years. That's not going to fix high school funding. 10,551 young adults in our high schools right now are losing their only opportunity for a high school education, and 10,501 young adults are expected to walk through the doors next year. It is up to our community to not let them down, and that's why parents all across our city are speaking up, because as proposed, this budget fails our kids.
Thank you. Next up, Melinda Leong, Katanya Ritchie, and Dejemet Dogo. Next up, in the three seats up front would be Joseph Santos Lyons, Kazuko Page, and Melissa Weddle. And I just, I don't want to rebut and refute what people are saying, but I just want to remind us, our elected leaders in Salem are elected by the people for the people, and they have not passed a budget, so I don't want people to walk away thinking that the funding that's set forth is the only option that's available. I just want to be loud and clear about that. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Melinda Leong, and speaking on behalf of the Mandarin Immersion Program in Portland. When our daughter was 2 years old, my husband and I began exploring elementary schools to find a program that would best meet her needs. As Laurelhurst residents, we had a great local option that was within our attendance area. But soon into our search, we discovered Woodstock, which housed a highly successful and popular Mandarin immersion program. This pocket of innovation, which has served as a model for other districts across the nation, intrigued us. As Chinese Americans, we knew that Woodstock would address our daughter's sociocultural needs. As a professional educator, I knew that a dual language program would help her develop her intellect and deepen her cognitive abilities. And as Americans, we knew that becoming proficient in Mandarin would help build political bridges and provide her with career opportunities. So we picked up and moved to the Woodstock neighborhood to be within walking distance of the school, and soon after we discovered that many other families have done the same, and we are happy to call this vibrant community our home. Our daughter is now in second grade and has achieved very high levels of language proficiency in both English and Mandarin. This is a testament to the work of the amazing educators at Woodstock. So we were really dismayed to learn that the decision was made to reduce the number of students that would be enrolled in kindergarten in September from 60 to 52. I was really confused. If we have a highly successful program that's in great demand by so many families, so many people being turned away and denied, why reducing this number? So today I respectfully ask Superintendent Smith and members of the PPS board to take another direction with the Mandarin program. Instead of reducing the numbers of students we serve, we should increase it. And we have an obligation to provide our children with the best education that's within our reach, and this is within our reach and shouldn't really cost us any more money if we're strategic.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katana Ritchie, R-I-C-H-E-Y, and I go to Alliance at Meek, one of the 2 Alliance high schools remaining in Portland. I'm sure you're always presented with statistics and facts, but what I want to do is tell you a little bit about the community at Meek ProTech. We have about 130 students and 9 full-time teachers. Within those 130 students, there are those facing teen pregnancy, mental and physical health problems, homelessness, and a variety of other obstacles. We all came to Meek because, for whatever reason, mainstream schooling didn't work for us. Last year at Lincoln High School, I gave up on the idea of graduating. The overwhelming size of the school reduced most students to their ID numbers. I only knew the names of a choice few students and even fewer teachers, even after being there for a year. With every year of my school career, the graduation requirements grew, and my faith in success dwindled. At Meek ProTech, I feel welcomed. More importantly, I feel hope. In this community, teachers are not only able to get to know and understand their students' needs, but find out how to tackle them. Since starting here only at the beginning of this school year, I have a plan in life and I'm driven to achieve my goals, which is more than I could ever say before. So if we're to cut a lines at Benson High School and send those students to Meek, that is appalling to me. If this were to happen, my school's student body would double. Not only would this be extremely difficult to arrange in a school that was once an elementary school, but many students would lose that feeling of community here that is the only thing keeping them enrolled at all. My point is, Alliance High School students at Benson and at Meek are part of a unique system that lets them feel like there is someone out there who cares and believes in their ability to succeed. And that can make an enormous difference not only in their lives, but in their futures. Please, I implore you, don't take that away from them.
Thank you.
My name is Jimmy Dogo. I am the manager of Aiko Africa House. I'm here representing, advocating for the African student and also representing the coalition of community of color. I'm here to support, the superintendent proposed budget. African students coming here, mostly refugees, when they come here, they face a lot of challenge and barriers. The disparity within the African community is so huge. We are even below the rest of the coalition of community of color. Why? Because, like some of my predecessors said earlier, students are put in a classroom according to their age instead of their skill. At the same time, there are not enough resources to help those kids to catch up with mainstream students. So if we're talking about equity and disparity reduction, we need also to think about ESL. The only way those refugee students, especially African students who been disconnected from education for so long, some have spent between 5 to 17 years in a refugee camp without schooling. When they come here, they need extra help to meet their education needs. So I'm here to support any effort that will help those students to meet the educational need and also support any effort that will provide ESL and after-school program for those students so that they succeed and they will not be left behind. Again, the idea of working with organizations such as IRCO or the Coalition of Community of Color is the best option for us to help those kids meet their educational need. Again, thank you so much. And as a community members, as also a parent, we gonna support the Portland Public School and support all the other organizations to work together so that our children will be successful in their school. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next up is Joseph Santos Lyons, Kazuko Page, Melissa Weddle. And then the next three to join us up front, Kelly George, Philip Liu, and Julia Meyer. I also want to acknowledge that we have a number of principals in the audience, so if you are a principal, could you either please stand? If you're standing, could you wave your hand so we can acknowledge your being here? Thank you. They are working very hard to put all these pieces together as well as we go through this process. So I wanted to acknowledge and thank you all for being here. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Joseph Santos Lyons. I'm the Executive Director of APANO, the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon. Also a parent with 3 school-age kids here in PPS. So we're here today to testify in support of the budget proposed by the superintendent for 2013-2014. The proposed budget is sound and it's grounded in emerging partnerships with communities of color that have historically faced some of the most significant academic disparities here in Portland. Partnerships with these communities who experience the education opportunity gap are fundamental to making positive change, as partnerships empower and build ownership from those who are most affected. APANO joins the Coalition of Communities of Color and many of our partners in celebrating the region's first racial education equity policy. This budget is a real test of leadership, and we are here to offer our hand of support. This budget will make important investments designed to particularly address the needs of English language learners. APANO is strongly supportive of the proposed budget allocations because approximately 50% of Asian Pacific Islanders here in PPS are or have been English language learners. And statewide, Asian Pacific Islanders across Oregon speak over 100 different languages, and PPS is home to many of them. Reports continue to show poor outcomes for our ESL students, and we can and we will do better. And Asian Pacific Islanders are a community of contrasts, some who are doing very well and some who are not, and many who are not always able to be here at these Portland School Board meetings. So we urge your support for the equity formula allocation that allocates an additional 4% of the staffing ratio to schools with a high percentage of historically underserved students. Many of you came from the formal Marshall High School. Also, the Portland International Scholars Academy for students in grades 9 through 12 who are new to PPS and have limited English proficiency. A revision of the enrollment and transfer policy that will also align with the racial equity policy. To hold ESL, bilingual, and bicultural staff, particularly education assistants, harmless from budget reduction, and to expand dual language immersion to include Vietnamese. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kazuko Page, P-A-G-E. I'm a Japanese teacher at Grant High School and a proud teacher of those 5 students who were here previously. Last Thursday, our administration made the decision to terminate the entire Japanese program, both immersion and non-immersion. Our students in the Japanese program, 158 of them, were shocked, dismayed, saddened, and profoundly disappointed. Since Thursday, only the immersion portion of the Japanese program at Grant has been restored for the next school year, but in a much smaller capacity than now. This temporary restoration does not guarantee the existence of our program for the following years. Our high schools need to be schools that value diversity through its course offerings. I believe it is our ethical obligation to offer Japanese language to the Japanese American community in Portland who had to endure the bitter experience of internment during the World War II. In the past 10 years, 4 PPS high schools have cut Japanese programs, and now we have only 2 high schools with Japanese, Grant and Roosevelt. In the 80s, Grant offered Russian, German, French, Spanish, Latin, and Japanese. With the current proposed cuts, we will have only French and Spanish and a small portion of Japanese next year. Lincoln High School is currently offering Arabic, Chinese, French, Spanish, Spanish immersion, and German, many of which have an IB track. I ask you to find solutions to close such disparity among our high schools. I also ask the district leadership to take a look at what languages each high school is offering and whether the language options embrace diversity. In the current budget proposal, it is stated that the district will plan for 2 new language immersion programs to begin in year 2014. Instead of investing in opening more immersion programs only to give broken promises, please find permanent funding solutions to maintain our existing world language programs in all of our high schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Melissa Weddle, W-E-D-D-L-E. I am the parent of a junior at Grant High School and an 8th grader who will be attending Grant this fall. I am also a pediatrician who has spent a portion of my career doing adolescent medicine. I am here to add my voice to those who have already advocated for increased funding for high schools. Since my 11th grader has been at Grant, all of our high schools have been negatively affected by budget cuts. With the move from 7 periods to 8 and a maximum of 6 or 7 classes with many students taking fewer, the math is simple. Less time at school, more free time for all. My son was home at noon today. There is one 11th grader in our neighborhood who's home. He's finished his school day at 10:30 in the morning, 2 days a week. Some students use their free time constructively, but as anyone who's ever parented a teen, worked with a teen, or has ever been a teen knows, many do not use this unscheduled time during the school day wisely, maybe even smoking weed, having sex, or taking the Max to Lloyd Center. PPS high school students deserve access to a full academic schedule. We absolutely cannot increase graduation rates without more classroom time. We need a range of courses to challenge the high achievers, to support those who are struggling, and to engage all students. We need more instructional time, more FTEs in the classrooms. I know you have a limited pool of dollars. but high school is the springboard to the future for our children, and for many, it's their last chance for an education. I urge you to allocate more money for more staff to replace the lost hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up are Kelly George, Philip Liu, and Julia Meyer. Just a reminder, I'm starting to hear some noise, and I don't know how easy it is for people to hear in the back. So if folks could remind people as they're leaving to make sure they do so quietly, that would be greatly appreciated. Next up on deck are Patrick Galen, Makar Trainum, and Marshall Haskins. And before our next folks start, I just want to note that I wonder how Lloyd Center Management would feel about being equated with having sex and smoking weed. Anyway, please.
My name is Kelly George, George. When my husband and I made the decision to adopt our children from China, one of the many factors we took into account was the knowledge that in Portland we had access to a culturally diverse Mandarin language immersion program. Portland's Mandarin Immersion Program is nationally recognized as a model Mandarin Immersion Program. As we watched the competition for the highly coveted 60 spots per year intensify, we determined that our best chance for enrollment was to move into the neighborhood. We happily did so by buying a house in Woodstock and moving our family from Mount Tabor. While we knew it was not a guarantee to enroll, we did know a couple of things. 30 families would be chosen from the neighborhood, and following what was done with the 2012 kindergarten class, the neighborhood kids who were waitlisted would be added first before the non-neighborhood kids on a wait list. Imagine our surprise when we learned of some unexpected changes this year. 60 incoming kindergartners would be reduced to 52. 48 neighborhood families applied for 26 spots. In-neighborhood families waitlisted could only fill spots vacated by in-neighborhood families, no longer a priority for neighborhood families when spaces became available. Enrolling incoming kindergartners in Woodstock's Mandarin Immersion Program is now a moving target, with the rules changing yearly. Among immersion programs, only Japanese and Mandarin regularly draw double and triple the number of applicants as spots available. Meanwhile, there are currently 6 Spanish immersion elementary schools spread across Portland, with plans to add a 7th in 2013 and an 8th in 2014. But according to transfer and lottery data on the PPS website, the average incoming kindergarten group in each of the existing 6 programs is only 11.9 children. In contrast, the Mandarin Immersions program incoming class size has been 60 per kindergarten class, split among 3 teachers. Growing the Spanish immersion program to cover 7 schools, 4 of which are located within about 30 to 40 block radius in southeast Portland, necessitates 7 FTEs, but based on the PPS data, these 7 FTEs will service an average of 11.9 students each.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just finish real quick?
One sentence.
Okay. All immersion programs are important. All of our children can benefit from bilingual education. Please consider how you grow the Spanish immersion programs within the existing schools, or more appropriately, consolidate geographically to 4 or 5 schools, thus using resources wisely and offering a balanced class size of 20 to 25 kids across all incoming kindergarten immersion programs.
Thank you.
Do it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please, go for it.
Oh.
No? Okay. Good evening. My name is Julia Meyer, Meier. I'm the director of the Coalition of Communities of Color. And you.
Just because. Okay, it should be okay. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. I think they may be testifying about the same thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm with the Coalition of Communities of Color, and we're here to support the superintendent's proposed budget. And I remember sitting here 2 years ago, testifying in support of your adoption of the region's first educational equity policy. And I'm thrilled to be here today witnessing the realization of the commitments that you all made in that policy. The coalition truly sees this budget as a result of collaboration and partnership between the districts and organizations representing the communities most impacted by racial inequities in the district. And I'm really proud of the work that the district's done and that I feel like we've done together. And I want to thank you all for your leadership and vision. And I want to affirm a couple of things for you. The first is that equity is not a new issue. It's not a fad that we're talking about now in Portland, but it's really a multi-generational issue. And the second piece is that equity is not something that we buy in times of plenty. I'm going to just call out some organizations of color that support the superintendent's budget. The Urban League of Portland, the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization, Verde, the Portland African American Leadership Forum, Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives, El Programa Hispano, Portland Youth and Elders Council, Hacienda Community Development Corporation, the VOS Workers Education Rights Project, Latino Network, and Self-Enhancement. I just want you to know the breadth of support that you all have in this budget process, and on behalf of the Coalition of Communities of Color, we thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Great. Hi there. Hello, Superintendent Smith, and thank you for Co-Chair Greg Smith, Greg Beasley, and the rest of the board. I just wanted to say I'm Philip Liu, and I'm a parent, proud parent of the Woodstock Elementary School for the Chinese immersion, and I wanted to have a very special treat for everybody. I'm going to have everybody, my kindergartners, come. I'm not mine. This is mine. So we have order Sophia over there. Perfect. And then Sophia. They are kindergartners, mostly in Shamasha's class, a little bit in Sue's class, and they do fantastic work. And I wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so I do the filing papers for the English class as well as the for the Mandarin class as well as the English class, and I'm just so proud of what they can have and what can they do when they learn Chinese as well as English at the same time. And it's just so I'm so proud, and I'm so saddened that the 22 kids who were in neighborhood didn't get in, and I'm so sad that a lot of so many people were not able to get in out of district as well. And so we're sad, but at the same time, this song is about springtime, and springtime is about the springtime now is a song for us to have renewal and hope for the Chinese school. So we can have 3 classrooms for kindergartners, and also to be able to have the also for a full school, for a MIP school.
And I know that the audience will allow us a little bit extra time. Everybody's anxiously not wanting me to cut off the kindergartners. Anyway, thanks. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Thank you. It was so fun to feel the palpable, like he's not going to cut him off, is he? Patrick Galen, Makar Trainum, Marshall Haskins are next at the testimony table. The next 3 to join us up front are Stephanie Kelly, Tom Walsh, and Rose Harding.
What song will all of you be singing?
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. My name is Patrick Alvin. I live in the Woodstock neighborhood with my wife and my daughter, who's 5, and unfortunately she will not be joining the group that you just saw. We are one of the 14 families that was outright denied in the Woodstock neighborhood. There are 8 other families that are waitlisted. So 22 children from the neighborhood will not be participating in that lovely drill. It saddens us deeply. Our daughter is from China. It's part of her culture that she will not get to enjoy. We see it as a question of equity, that kids are not allowed to live to their full cultural potential. We have a thriving Mandarin immersion program, and as a new person to Portland Public Schools, actually I'm not even in them yet, the notion that a very successful program that creates opportunities for kids to do what you just saw is essentially being eviscerated. We're going from 60 kindergartners to 52, which creates fewer opportunities, not just for the neighborhood, but for the city at large. So what I'm advocating for is that the board gives serious consideration to reinstating a neighborhood kindergarten teacher for Woodstock so that 3 classes can be put in place for the coming year. Hopefully, at least 60 kids then can come in instead of 52, and potentially maybe you can expand it a little bit because we had such tremendous demand. Also, I know that the board is considering future languages. I would just like to put in a good word for Chinese. All languages are important, all cultures are important. China is our state's #1 trading partner. The future of the state of Oregon will be very dependent upon maintaining a good and strong relationship with China. If Oregonians cannot speak Chinese, I wonder how we will have a good and successful relationship with this country. So I'm strongly urging you to give serious consideration to making Chinese a program that expands, and when you're looking to open a new immersion program, then serious thought be given to the Chinese language. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Marshall Haskins, Haskins.
Makari Trainum, Traynham.
We're representatives of the administrators of color, and in the audience are other various members of our administrative colors for Portland Public Schools. We're here to voice our support for the use of the racial equity policy and the lens in the budget decision, and to commend the superintendent for the transformational budget approach that was implemented to achieve equity outcomes for all students. The racial equity policy states that the district shall provide every student with equitable access to high quality and cultural relevant instruction, curriculum, support, facilities, and other educational resources, even when this means differentiating resources to accomplish the goal.
Equal is not equitable, and differentiating resources to serve the needs of our historically underserved student populations is not a matter of convenience, and we must act now. As the superintendent responds to your request to revisit the budget, our expectation is that you will respect and stand by the racial educational equity policy to ensure that we do not worsen the disparities for our historically underserved students. We do appreciate all that you have done to move the equity work forward in our organization and to support our superintendent's courageous leadership, because we do know that having conversations about race and making decisions that are not convenient and challenge status quo is very difficult. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Stephanie Kelly, Tom Walsh, Rose Harding. And the next 3 people to join us up front to be ready next would be Lee Po Cha, Paula Hernandez, and Ann Curry-Stevens.
I'm going to just jump in here. My name is Rose Hartwig, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Mandarin Immersion Program. My last name is Hartwig, and I'm a passionate believer in the benefits that all kids can get from being multilingual and learning multiple languages. But my point that I want to make here with you tonight is more practical than passion-based and not nearly as cute as all the kindergartners up here singing. The world has really changed a ton since we were all kids, maybe Ms. Garcia accepted, in that the importance of cultural competency and multilingualism has just grown tremendously, and that trend is really going to continue. We're not going to see things go back the other way. So some ways that that's evidenced, just on an economic scale, China's economy is predicted to outgrow ours by 2030, if not sooner. By 2050, at the time that my 2 sons will hopefully, knock on wood, be at the height of their careers and abilities, China and India are expected to have 50% of the world's gross domestic product. Mandarin is spoken by more than any other language in the world. There are 3 Mandarin speakers for every English speaker or every Spanish speaker for that matter. So what does that mean for us locally? For companies like Daimler, where I work, Adidas, Nike, Intel, all of these other local companies that employ a lot of people here in our community, those companies are going to be looking for people who have cultural competency, who have language skills and abilities. Their primary markets are now and are going to continue to be Asia. So again, local employers are going to be demanding people who have the kind of background and skills and abilities to facilitate that. So we need to prepare all of our kids, not just the ones who can afford private school, to work in the 21st century workplace. So I'd encourage all of you to keep that in mind when you're making decisions about the future of not only the Chinese immersion program, but other language programs as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving me, I have a cold, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am a teacher at the NAE Early College Academy. Our students are comprised mainly of students of color and those who aren't successful in the traditional high school setting. From my perspective, I just want to applaud the continuation of the racial educational equity policy. It's a comprehensive plan that in the big picture not only improves students' lives, but creates better communities. I want to urge the continuation of funding for this policy. We need to continue to address and bridge the academic disparities that exist here in Portland. With this policy, we're showing that we care and value all of our community members, every last one of them. We're also setting precedents for other communities and other cities by prioritizing and addressing this issue on a policy level. And I'm proud to be part of a city that would do that. I've heard a lot of people talk about competition with other countries and competition within other cities in terms of our students' performance. There's still a large population of students who are not even on par with that, and that is not even a reality, and we need to really pull together and bridge the gap between everybody and give everybody an equal chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Smith and members of the board, my name is Tom Walsh. I am now the old man of 3 generations of our family who have produced about 2.5 dozen graduates of the Portland Public School system. That doesn't represent an obligation or an opportunity. It simply represents a deep devotion to what the system has produced and can continue to. I left Lincoln High School, graduated actually, not expelled, some almost 60 years ago with a single message from Bill Matson, who was our math teacher and permitted me to sleep through the first 1.5 years of college math classes. Mr. Matson's ethic was always tackle the toughest task first. Your toughest decision, bar none, is the decision you make about a full day for high school students. You cannot produce full-time adults with part-time students in high school. It will disseminate this system. You will send a message that the generation that you are about to send out, either to the workforce or to college, can be done on a part-time basis. It cannot. It is the toughest decision you face, and you face many, many tough decisions. Bar none, you have the toughest jobs in this community. But the mandatory decision that I would urge you to make is we will have a full day of high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lee Po Cha, Paula Hernandez, and Curry Stevens. And then the next 3 to join us up front to be ready would be Mark Holloway, Kathy Scott, and Bertha Ferran.
Good evening, Superintendent Smith, Chair Belials, and members of the PPS board. I'm grateful to be here with you tonight. Seems you have received all kind of statistics already. I'm not going to do that. So let me just go straight to the comments that I wanted to make and urging you for your strong continuations of strong leaderships for the school district. First, let me again applaud you for the courage and also strong leadership to create the educational equity policy. Creating a policy is great, and many of us are so proud of that. But to truly make a difference and make an impact to the student populations that we created the policy to address, action and resource must be followed. Otherwise, a great policy would just be a great policy. So with that, I'd like to encourage that you do not be shy to continue to support the equity formula allocations, the Portland International School Academies for students who are in grade 9 to 12 that may be very new to the school, and also maintaining already your limited bilingual bicultural staff. Language immersion, it is a good thing. And for me, I think that today we're no longer just talking about the Oregon economy. We're no longer just talking about the U.S. economy. What we're talking about a very global economy. And so therefore, I urge that you do think globally and act locally so that way we can truly prepare our kids to and our students to really be prepared for the world's economy today. And so with that, I thank you.
Thank you. And I'm
Buenas tardes a los representantes de la mesa directiva de las escuelas y la superintendente Smith.
Good afternoon to the PPS School Board representatives and to Superintendent Smith.
Me llamo Paula Hernández.
My name is Paula Hernandez.
P-A-U-L-A-H-E-R-N-A-N-D-E-Z.
P-A-U-L-A-H-E-R-N-A-N-D-E-Z.
Soy madre de 8 hijos, estudiante de las escuelas públicas de Portland.
I am a mother of 8 children who are Portland Public Schools students.
Me presento ante ustedes representando a mi familia al Colegio de Padres.
I am here representing my family and Colegio de Padres.
Al Colegio de Padres Latinos de las escuelas Lynn, en que participan 15 familias.
Here representing Colegio de Padres from Lentz Elementary School, who have 15 families participating regularly.
También a mi comunidad latina que abarca el 12% de la población del condado de Multnomah.
And also my Latino community, who is 12% of the population of the Multnomah County.
Estoy aquí para agradecerles que hayan dado prioridad a la equidad al desarrollar el presupuesto del distrito.
I am here to thank you for giving priority to an equity policy as you develop the budget for the district.
Para alinear los recursos estratégicamente para brindar apoyo a los estudiantes que frecuentemente se quedan sin alcanzar su potencial.
For providing, for strategically aligning the resources to provide support to the students who frequently are left behind, not able to achieve the potential.
También me gustaría agradecerles que apoyen a programas como el Colegio de Padres ofrecidos por Latino Network.
I would also like to thank you for supporting programs like Colegio de Padres offered by Latino Network
para poder apoyar a nuestros hijos para que tengan éxitos académicos.
to be able to support our children so that they are able to achieve academic success.
También nos ayudan a alzar nuestra voz para abogar por nuestros hijos y por nuestras familias.
This also helps us raise our voice to advocate for our children and for our families.
Estoy agradecida de tener la oportunidad de presentarme ante ustedes para comunicarles mi apreciación.
I am thankful to be able to be here before you to share my appreciation
por apoyar la equidad para todos los estudiantes.
to support equity for all students.
Seguiré presente como los demás padres que presento para asegurarnos de que sigan en marchas pólizas equitativas para todos.
I will continue to be present, as will the rest of the parents that I represent, to ensure that the equity policies continue on for everyone.
Gracias. So just to let folks know, we do double the time when somebody's using a translator, so that was a little bit over. But if you've ever spoken through a translator, it actually more than doubles the time. So we try to let folks finish. Thank you. Gracias.
Good evening. My name's Ann Curry-Stevens. I'm on faculty at the School of Social Work at Portland State, and I've been a leading researcher with the Coalition of Communities of Color for the last 5 years. There are a few points I want to affirm and a few reminders I have for you as you make your decisions about the upcoming budget. Number one, our public purse is not large enough to do all that we want it to do. With this as a reminder, I urge all in attendance to have the same kind of energy to go to the state legislative sessions to talk about the importance of increasing the size of the pie we have to expend at the local level. The next point I want to make is to affirm the importance of the expanded equity allocation in the proposed budget. The advance of creating a racial educational equity policy is a very important achievement for the board in recognition that communities of color in this region face very deep and very profound racial disparities across 28 different systems and institutions in the area. Our fundamental goal in our education system is to ensure that every child, every student, graduate successfully from our programs. We need to be reminded as we move forward that the current data on these achievements is very disparate. Today in Portland Public Schools, our white students, only 64% of them are graduating. That's a very dismal outcome. Compared to that level, our communities of color and other marginalized communities struggle even more deeply. Our Native community graduation rate is 42%. Our African American graduation rate is 50%. Our Latino graduation rate is 46%. More than 1 in 3 ELL students are successfully graduating. 2/3 do not. I ask you to remember half of our students are students of color, and that our fundamental mandate and the way that we drive our budget must be to ensure that each student gets successfully through our high schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mark Holloway, Kathy Scott, and Bertha Ferran. And if I could have the next 3 people join us up front in the reserve seats are Gladys Alvarado, Nancy Ramirez Arriaga, and Andrea Cano. And you can start.
Good evening. My name is Berta Ferran, and I'm a member of the Latino community. First, I would like to thank the Portland Public Schools and your board for taking the steps necessary to prioritize equity in your budget. As you know, for many years, parents, advocates, and teachers have requested that PPS focus on the success of all students, only to be disappointed at yet another generation of failing students, particularly students of color, English language learners, and students with disabilities. This proposed budget clearly aligns resources with the board's previously adoption of the racial equality policy for Portland Public Schools. What this budget does is to finally recognize that while all students deserve a quality education, not all students are the same. And this budget aligns our community's decades of hopes with deliberate action by delivering commitment to equity and aligning resources where they are most needed. Thank you for your courageous steps to prioritize equity in this budget, and I encourage you to remain firm in your commitment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Scott, Parent Involvement Advocate at NAYA, Native American Youth and Family Services. As Hillary Clinton so eloquently stated in 1996, it takes a village to raise our children. I would like to thank Portland Public Schools Superintendent Carol Smith and the school board for their strong investment with community partners as we work together to create this village for our children here in Portland. The courage and foresight to prioritize and align resources in order to close this long-standing achievement gap is paramount to our children's future. When one child is lost, all of our children lose. When one child advances, our entire community advances. As the parent involvement advocate at NAYA, I have had the privilege of teaching through the supported partnership with Portland Public School, the Parents Helping Parents 20-session parenting class at NAYA. The mission of this program is empowering communities, one family at a time. The curriculum focuses on 3 specific domains: parents becoming leaders in their homes, schools, and neighborhoods. It becomes a lifelong support group, a village where wisdom is shared and common philosophy is created and learned, and families support one another. It is a place where new learning takes place that is self-reflective, lively, engaging, and interactive. One of our parents, who couldn't be here tonight, asked me to share her story with you. She enrolled herself and her 3 adult children and their partners in Parents Helping Parents because she wanted something more for all of them and their children. 2/3 of the way through the class, she decided to go back to school. She found the confidence to enroll at Portland Community College and convinced her 2 daughters to get their GED. She began to bring her 3 grade school children to the after-school learning center at NEA. She was concerned that with her busy schedule, her children's grades might suffer.
Can you please
Yet with
wrap
their
up your
mother's modeling
comments?
of the value of education, she discovered that they were doing better than ever. She found the confidence to end an abusive relationship, and this reserved, soft-spoken, quiet Native American mother and grandmother just last week spoke at a fundraiser with 200 guests and received a standing ovation.
Thank you.
This is just one family's story.
I know.
The work is making a measurable difference in a community with the lowest graduation rate and the deepest achievement gap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I know it's hard to cut off people's personal story, because I know it's meaningful, but there's a lot of personal stories to get to tonight, but thank you. Gladys, next 3 are Gladys Alvarado, Nancy Ramirez Arriaga, and Andrea Ocano. The next 3 to come join us up front to the seats so they can be ready are Kate Rawson, Jackie Leong, and Jade Chan. And you can start when you're ready. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gladys Alvarado, Alvarado, and I'm a senior at Madison High School. And I came to talk about the equity formulas that have been talked about by the school board. And a little bit about my story is that I've been going to Portland Public Schools ever since I was in kindergarten. I did not know any English when I went into school as a kindergartner, so I was in ESL up until the 5th grade. And one of the things is that the schools that I went to they never had enough money for anything. They were always struggling with budget cuts and the classes being too large because there was not enough staff. And I would have friends from other schools that would talk to me, for example, Woodstock or Mount Tabor, and they had 15, 13, 20 kids in their classes, while my classes had about 30, 35, 40 kids. And they had better music programs, they had art programs, they had all the things that I did not have the privilege of having ever since growing up. And hearing about this equity formula gives me great pleasure. It really it's a great opportunity for kids that went through things that I went through. Like my siblings go to the same schools that I went to, and in the cafeteria, they only have 15 minutes of lunch, while kids should have 30 minutes to eat, and they rush through their food and they don't have a break. And all those things really impact their learning because sometimes they don't even eat. And so I just want you guys to really think about who the money is going to, what schools are most needed, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes. Good evening. My name is Nancy Ramirez Arriaga, and I serve as the Family and Youth Engagement Program Director at Latino Network. I also bring a depth of knowledge in the realm of equity. I have been called on to consult by numerous entities to consult on equity, including our federal government. I want to thank PPS for the bold step of prioritizing equity, not only in intention, but most importantly in action through its adoption and use of the racial equity to allocate resources. I know that the subject of equity and the journey towards it is not an easy road to travel. There are difficult decisions to be made, and specifically, toughest decisions revolve around money, and they are also the most revealing pieces of evidence that demonstrate readiness and commitment to our claims. Thank you once again for demonstrating your readiness and commitment to creating equity and closing the achievement gap for all students. I strongly believe that equitable investment, specifically the allocation to better serve students of color, English language learners, and students with disabilities, is an investment in all students. Our fast-changing environment calls for us to prepare and graduate all students with a level of readiness to work, live, and serve in our real-life, diverse communities. We can't provide this environment if we fail to engage and graduate all students. I'm optimistic that together we can serve all students better and deliver strong academic outcomes for all students. To illustrate this point, I want to share that this past Saturday, we, and by we I mean Portland Public Schools Latino Network and multiple partners, hosted the third Latino Family Conference, and we had a wealth of invested students and parents engaged, hungry for information and dialogue to close the achievement gap. This is a glimpse of what a racial equity policy and equitable allocation of resources contributes to.
Thank you. Thanks. That's great. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Esteemed Chair and members, Portland Public School Board Superintendent Smith, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to testify before you. My name is Andrea Cano and I'm the chair of the Oregon Commission on Hispanic Affairs, known as OCHA. Our commission is one of 4 advocacy commissions created by legislative statute. In addition to OCHA, the Commission on Asian Pacific Islander Affairs, the Commission on Black Affairs, and the Commission for Women serve particular constituents with specific responsibilities. The mandate, of course, for OCHA is to ensure economic, social, legal, and political equality and equity for Hispanics in Oregon. Hence, we are the official voice before the state legislature of the Hispanic, Latino, Indigena community, especially what's in session, and I certainly echo your concern about the budget process, and we're also a part of that. Our community, of course, is inching towards 500,000, and our networking relationship is building is a lot more complex now because of this intercultural, linguistic, multilingual diversity within our domestic and immigrant communities. We also have enjoy a special consultative relationships with Ben Cannon, the Senior Policy Advisor for the Governor on Education, also with Rudy Crew, the Chief Education Officer for the state, and also the State Board of Education. We have a consultative relationship with them. We also monitor what's happening with the Education Investment Board, as well as the 40-40-20 plan, and also the recent equity survey that I think most of you and a lot of us were part of. This evening, I'm here at the invitation of one of our partners, the Latino Network, to thank you and acknowledge and for acknowledging the diversity of students in your school, and of course, it's very evident and present here, and for adopting a racial educational equity policy, for prioritizing equity in this budget cycle that will contribute to closing the achievement gap. We trust this good decisions will lay the foundation for Portland Public Schools to not only meet the required state compact outcomes, but also generate successes above and beyond the standards, and that the students, the teachers, administrators, families, and community stakeholders can collectively claim and celebrate, and we look forward to sharing your outcomes and your successes.
Thank you. Just a reminder, folks, that we're a little over halfway through, and we have about 80, if we don't transition time, we have 80 minutes of testimony left, and we have 55 minutes left of our time here. So again, I'm going to just remind folks that if you're here to speak about something that's already on here, and you're willing to give up your spot, that would be great. I don't want to discourage anybody to use your voice, so please do that if you feel so moved. And if we could keep the testimony to 2 minutes, that would be great. Next up are Kate Rawson, Jackie Leong, Jade Chan, and the next 3 people to join us up front to be ready to speak would be Robert Kobus, Beth Schaller, and Mark Halpern. And you can go ahead and start. Thanks.
Good evening. I'm Jacqueline Leong, Leong, And I have children in both the Mandarin Immersion preschool and a kindergartner at Woodstock, who saw us singing this evening. I ask that you take action to support Woodstock Elementary by providing an additional kindergarten teacher in 2013-14 and prevent the scaling back of the school's Mandarin Immersion program. Without an additional teacher, resources for the Mandarin Immersion program will continue to be tapped to support our growing neighborhood class. Cutting the MIP from 3 classes to 2 will remove Shen Yun, one of the best Mandarin teachers available, from teaching. Losing this teacher in classroom is a terrible blow to kindergarten students beginning Mandarin immersion and compromises the strength and leadership of a successful program. As a model school, both nationally and internationally, drawing Federal Department of Defense support and Confucius Institute teachers funded by the Chinese government, the program cannot afford to be weakened. Furthermore, there is a strong demand to establish a second MIP in PPS. Superintendent Smith's 2013-14 budget message notes plans for 2 new dual language immersion programs in 2014-15. One in a world language still to be confirmed. It is clear that the other world language must be Mandarin. The Woodstock MIP has more than twice the number of applicants than the program can serve, devastating dedicated families. With the creation of a second MIP, pressure on the Woodstock MIP, and consequently the school's neighborhood program, will be relieved. A second program will also allow PPS to educate more Mandarin speakers to meet the United States' global needs and continue to be a leader in Mandarin language education. I implore you not to undermine the strength of the Woodstock MIP or make further reductions to early learning. Please assign an additional kindergarten teacher to Woodstock in 2013-14 and confirm a second MIP PPS in 2014-15. Your support will have a strong impact on the future of Mandarin language education in PPS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, dear. Hi, my name is Jade Chan. Last name is C-H-A-N. This is my son, Connor Murtaugh. He is 5 years old, and when I last spoke with you at the last hearing, I told you that winning or getting into Woodstock at that lottery would be better than winning the real lottery. Well, unfortunately, Connor did not have those winning numbers, and it has been heartbreaking. He did cry when he heard that he would not be going to the Blues School. He has spent the last 2.5 years at UMail Chinese Immersion Preschool absolutely flourishing. And of his class of 16 preschoolers, 3 were not approved and 1 was waitlisted. And this is most preschools, kids scatter, they go to different schools. This school is a family, and the majority of them wish to continue with their Chinese immersion education. They have a true passion for learning this language and culture. And this is not the only program in town. We understand that there are many Chinese immersion programs, and it just proves that the Chinese world language is improving. Is a very important world language. And it's baffling that Portland Public would, when they recognized this 13 years ago to establish the program, took 2 steps back and reduced the number of the incoming kindergarten and is not taking steps to expanding the program. When Connor was asking, can I go to the Blue School? And I said, Connor, there's a lot of people want to get in. There's not much space. We should put your name in a hat and you might get picked. And he said, then they need to get a bigger rug. So I am here to implore you to get that bigger rug, to return the 8 spots to the Mandarin Immersion Program at Woodstock and add a new Chinese immersion program for all the kids who have been turned away in the past years that the program has been in full demand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Such a dedicated family to Mandarin learning, turned away from our program.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kate Rosson, R-O-S-S-O-N. I'm also a parent of children in the Woodstock neighborhood. My older son will be starting kindergarten next year in the Woodstock neighborhood program because he was another one of the ones who was denied space in the Mandarin program. However, we're still hopeful that our younger son might get into the Mandarin program at Woodstock. So the needs of both programs at the school are in my personal interest. So many others have or will be speaking about the value of the Mandarin program. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about the issues that led to class size inequities and budget constraints that led to the decision to reduce the Mandarin spots. a very small percentage of students living in the Woodstock attendance area enroll in Woodstock's neighborhood program. It's not just because of students enrolling in the Mandarin program. It also has a high percentage of students who choose to enroll in other Portland Public School neighborhood programs rather than attend Woodstock's neighborhood program. In an apparent attempt to counter this outflow and address equity issues, lottery slots have been made available for students to transfer into the neighborhood program. While in one recent year this resulted in enough students to create 2 kindergarten classes, mostly it has just exacerbated overcrowding problems on the neighborhood side. Also compared with Mandarin immersion, the demographics of the neighborhood program are quite different, and the needs of the students in that program are quite different. And because the budget allocation formulas don't take that into consideration, the Woodstock neighborhood kids typically are underserved. However, cutting the Mandarin program is not going to fix any of these things. Taking a look at Woodstock's attendance boundary, taking a look at budget allocation formulas for schools that do have multiple programs, and being realistic about what resources they can actually share, and making sure that the needs, so these are the things that need to be addressed to ensure equity for students at Woodstock, not cuts to the Mandarin program.
Thank you. Next up, we have Robert Kobus, Beth Schaller, and Mark Halpern. The next 3, if you could come join us up front in the seats to be ready, would be Celeste Lewis, Jim Strupp, and Brizaida Lopez. Go ahead, we can start.
Good evening. I'm Robert C. Kobus, K-O-B-U-S. I speak for a number of parents and students who are unable to attend this forum and want Woodstock Mandarin Immersion Program to grow, improve, and become the best Mandarin Immersion program in the United States. Class size matters. In a frequent cited State University System of Florida Foreign Language and Linguistic Program Review, Alatis notes, class size directly affects the quality of language instruction. The smaller the class, the more intensive the exposure to the language and better results. Research has also shown that in classes with less than 20 students, both students and teachers benefited, and these results are attributed to many years of observation experience by numerous researchers. However, if class size must be larger than 20 students, then computer-based instruction should be utilized to help supplement the loss of teacher-student language interaction. For example, a language laboratory, a form of computer-based instruction, may be implemented to help individualize student learning and language acquisition. The language laboratory will allow each student to hear the vocabulary and speech patterns repeatedly. Students will achieve language acquisition via learning exercises. The learning exercises would be carefully sequenced, and extensive practice in the new language will be facilitated. Currently, at Woodstock Elementary School, the computers are underutilized. In fact, kindergartners do not use computers at all. It is important to note that there currently exists a number of free Mandarin Chinese computer-based instructional systems that will help with students' language acquisition. The missing elements are providing the necessary time, instruction, and materials. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you about the need to improve Woodstock Mandarin Chinese Immersion School.
Thank you.
My name is Beth Schaller, S-C-H-A-L-L-E-R. Hello to the board, and hello, I think my son is watching on TV right now. I am speaking on behalf of the Mandarin Immersion Program at Woodstock Elementary. And as a parent of a kindergartner in the program, I was deeply concerned to learn that the number of available slots this year had been reduced. As you've already heard, this program is a national model, a highly successful and a highly regarded program with increasing demand each year. This year, more than 60% of applicants were denied. I urge you to take action this year to restore the program to its number of 60 slots, and then to begin looking at the process of how to expand this highly successful program, either at Woodstock or another location. We have an opportunity to be a model of forward-thinking and high-quality education here in our district. Please do not allow an exceptional educational opportunity like this to be diminished. With so many dedicated and hardworking people, I'm confident there can be greater access to this high-quality program. I appreciate your influence and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Celeste Lewis, Jim Strupp, Brizaida Lopez, and the next 3 to join us up front to be ready to speak would be Carrie Moran-Kuhn, Kimberly Bakken, and Lisa White. And you can start. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Celeste Lewis, and you spell my last name Lewis, and I'm coming to you as a founding member of Portlanders for Outdoor School. I come tonight to ask you for continued support of Outdoor School. We understand that the current PPS budget proposed by Carol Smith has $150,000 allocated to pay for Outdoor School, but the cost for all sixth graders to attend is roughly $850,000. As your community partner, last year we were able to raise roughly $700,000 less the Metro, fee that they put in. This year, I'm here and unfortunately letting you know that the City of Portland and some of our other funding sources are unavailable. We've applied to over 10 grants and have been denied by all but one. It's a program we're saving. It provides, for the 3 days, 12 hours of science curriculum for all sixth graders, which can't be replicated in an urban setting. And since all sixth graders attend, it's an equitable program that benefits all students regardless of race and income. And ODS provides a unique volunteer opportunity, unique opportunity for volunteers of high schoolers. They get a great leadership opportunity, a resume builder, and those are increasingly scarce. I hope you'll help us fund Outdoor School and don't leave money on the table for Metro and support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Briseda Lopez, Lopez. I am a young mother of a toddler. I am a night student from Alliance High School at Benson, and knowing my school is being closed again, it is a terrible feeling, especially when I have my daughter who depends on me to graduate. I have been going to, I am a student from Alliance from 2010, and that was when it was on Marshall, and I started with 4 credits. At the end of the year, I received 9 credits total. Over all these years at Alliance, I feel I have been tossed around like trash from Marshall to Benson, from Marshall to Madison and to Benson, and maybe now to nowhere. Now that Alliance at Benson is closing, where am I going to be tossed to next? I have everything planned out to the credits I am going to receive this year and from summer school. Next year, I'm going to be an on-time graduate and be the first in my family to graduate high school. But now, I don't even know if that's going to happen because of another barrier that has been placed on my track to reaching my goal. I am an example of an excellent student and peer. I am a loving mother who my daughter looks up to. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Carrie Moran-Kuhn, Kimberly Baff, Lisa White. The next 3 to join us up front, Amy Starr-Thomas, Matt Carlson, and Rachel Dumont. You can go ahead and start.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Alison O'Brien, O''Brien, and I'm here in support of Richmond School in the Japanese Magnet Program. Carrie Moran-Coons was unable to attend this evening, and so she asked.
I was like, you're not on my list.
Yeah, well, I thought I clarified that, yeah. So I do chair the foundation at Richmond School, but more importantly, I have 2 children there. My son, Brennan, is in 3rd grade, and my daughter, Molly, just started in pre-K this year. She's very excited. And I do see that many of their teachers and our principals here tonight. It's an amazing place to be. We feel very fortunate. It's an amazing school, and the Japanese Magnet Program presents a really wonderful opportunity for these children to not only learn another language, but to also turn into global citizens who have a real love of learning. Look at the high school students that were here tonight. Not slackers, no. So I'm kind of embarrassed to follow them, to be honest. But I do want to say that because of the dual classroom model that we have at Richmond, any reduction in staffing is truly crippling to our program. And just please recall that this is a nationally recognized program, and know that the number of applications to attend Richmond each year far outnumber the number of openings. There are well over 600 students at Richmond this year, and every single one of them is part of the Japanese Magnet program. I do hope that they can count on your support, and I want to thank you all for all of the work that you do and for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Amy Starr-Thomas, Matt Carlson, and Rachel Dumont. The next three to join us up front to be ready to speak is Irion Sanger, Jill Punches, and Jenny Owen. You can start anytime you're ready.
My name is Amy Starr-Thomas, mother of 3 children enrolled in the Japanese Immersion Program at Richmond, the largest and oldest immersion program in Portland Public Schools, serving just under 700 students in elementary school alone. I'm also serving as the current PTA president at Richmond. I'm here to ask you tonight to honor your commitment to all immersion language education programs by continuing to fund successful growing programs as the superintendent's budget narrative dictates. I'm also asking you to please rescind the board mandate that all schools employ a full-time counselor. The program at Richmond is growing. In order to maintain the existing teaching model, Richmond requires funds to support 1 additional FTE. Despite the fact that the superintendent's narrative of the proposed budget states, quote, adjustments are made if you are adding a grade level or growing a program, end quote, no additional funds have been allocated to Richmond. With the allocation of the monies generated by the arts tax, it appears the overall budget has remained intact. However, the allocation of these revenues were coupled with a reduction in other funding. Because Measure 4 funds legally are restricted to be used for art instruction only, in effect, Richmond's budget for core programming has been significantly cut. Elementary administrators must also allocate 1 FTE for counseling services due to prior board decisions. With these 2 staffing stipulations, the only remaining cuts available, short of classroom teachers, are PE and library. Following classroom instruction, PE is the 2nd highest priority among community, followed by library services. A full-time counseling position, while offering many worthwhile programs, is simply not what Richmond students need most based on teacher, parent, and administrative input. By failing to increase Richmond's budget to accommodate its growth combined with restricting the use of its funds it does receive, you are effectively making it impossible to continue to offer the academic program Richmond children and families were assured they would receive when they enrolled in the JMP. Please allocate funds to sustain the growing Japanese immersion program. Please eliminate the requirement of a full-time counselor, freeing building principals to staff their programs based on their expert understanding of what their schools need the most. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Matt Carlson. I'm a sociology professor at Portland State University. I want to first thank you so much for your vision and support and leadership in immersion programs. I can see that there has been for the last 2 hours sitting here, we've heard a lot from concerned parents, teachers about the immersion programs, and the fact that we have such dedicated people is amazing. One of the things I wanted to mention as a sociologist, I think a lot about the effects of these programs on the communities that they serve, and having publicly available immersion programs is extremely important for low-income and even middle-income families who could not otherwise have access to language immersion programs. And so this really is an educational access and equity issue, and that's something I know that you all care very deeply about. The program at Woodstock, the Mandarin Immersion Program, not just at Woodstock but throughout the entire program, is also crucial, as you've heard tonight, for preparing the workforce of the 21st century, in which our relationship with the Pacific Rim and China is extremely important. Finally, I would like to say that this program represents a very important partnership with the Chinese community, the Confucius Institute, the Chinese government, and reducing our investment in this program, I think, sends the wrong message to very important trade partners, and I think it's something that we need to consider very heavily when we think about funding decisions. So I'm here to ask you to continue to support, as you have, and expand the Mandarin Immersion Program. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rachel Dumont. That's D-U-M-O-N-T. I have a daughter who started in the Mandarin Immersion Program at Woodstock Elementary, and we fortunately got called off the wait list last summer. I also have a 3-year-old daughter who I hope to enroll in the program in 2 years. I'm very concerned about the future of this program, and then in 2 years, my chance of enrolling my second child in this wonderful program in our neighborhood school will be slim. I grew up in the province of Quebec, where I grew up, where I spoke English at home, but was enrolled in the French immersion programs from kindergarten through middle school. In high school, I continued to take a third of my courses in French. It's opened many doors for me that would otherwise have remained shut. It has given me overall confidence, as well as the desire to travel in other parts of the world and a willingness and curiosity to learn about other cultures. Furthermore, unbeknownst to me, the learning of a second language was making my brain a smarter one. I'm also a scientist at OHSU. I have a PhD studying the inner ear, and I love data. And the data show, in addition to the personal benefits I just mentioned, there are significant cognitive benefits to being bilingual, even more so multilingual. To name a few, it appears that people who learn a second language do better at prioritizing tasks, multitasking, filtering out distracting noises, processing various sounds, and they also perform better on culture fair, standardized verbal and nonverbal tests. And the benefits are also seen later on in old age, where multilingualism seems to protect the brain from cognitive decline, delaying dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I know how important these immersion programs, I know you understand how important these immersion programs are, and many families in Portland realize this, and the demand for these immersion programs is high. I hope you can find some way to protect this program and even support it, perhaps by supplying an extra teacher for the overburdened neighborhood program that desperately needs our English teachers.
Thank you. It's nice to hear somebody who loves data. Ariane Sanger, Jill Punches, and Jenny Owen. Next up are Gerald Deloney, Ashley Thinstrup, and Jamila Allen.
Hello, thank you. My name is Ariane Sanger, and I have a daughter in the Japanese immersion program at Mount Tabor Middle School. My brother, who I partially raised, also went through Portland Public Schools, and over the last 15 years, I've seen a significant deterioration in the quality of education here in Portland. I am here today for 2 reasons. One, I urge you to fully fund the high school programs, including the program at Grant, with a sufficient amount of classes that will allow our students to be prepared for college. 2, I urge you to fully support the Japanese immersion and language program at Grant High School. Now, myself and my family are strong supporters of public education. We support it with our time and with our money, and we vote for every single tax increase that comes on the ballot. However, the reason my daughter is in Portland Public Schools is we believed that it would give her an opportunity to have a high-quality education. Your proposed budget does not allow for that. You are forcing, and will force, if you make these decisions to make the cuts, parents like myself to choose between our obligation to our children to give them a high-quality high-quality education, and our support for the Portland Public Schools. Many of us will choose to withdraw our children if you make the decision to ruin the best parts of this entire public education system and damage the language immersion programs, the Japanese language immersion program, and what I've heard today, the Chinese language immersion program. By damaging the best parts of your school system, you're going to ruin the entire school system. I urge you not to make the budget cuts that you're considering now.
Thank you.
My turn?
Yep.
All right. I'm Jill Punches, and I speak in support of maintaining Japanese language programs and for foreign language options in general at Grant and all other schools in Portland. I love language and learning about other cultures. I always have. I've lived in Spain and Germany, and I speak both languages fairly well. I just like dabbling in it, and I've been an accidental fan of the Japanese people, the language and culture, after working with foreign students at a university in California 25 years ago. I was immersed by large groups of Japanese students. And this relationship with Japan has continued over the years. I have 3 girls who have spent at least 4 years in the JMP. My oldest is going to graduate in the JMP program. Over the last 19 years, we've hosted 50 to 100 interns, students, and teachers from Japan. I've lost count. I don't know that anybody's kept count. And our family has benefited from going over there on cultural exchanges. I'm dismayed that foreign language learning is what I would call rationed at Grant. The decline in offerings didn't start this year. And a couple years ago, students could only select one foreign language. My daughter had to choose between Latin and Japanese. Latin, as you know, is a key to medical and health career professions. I hear this year Latin is cut out altogether, and I've heard that teacher was excellent and that program was excellent. I know a girl who enrolled in Spanish 2 as a freshman. She had maybe a couple weeks of Spanish because she didn't have Spanish 1 as an option. And I don't think it went very well. It probably wasn't fair to the teacher or the student, but that's how much Portlanders like language and strive to learn. I'm also dismayed at the shortage of classes available to upper classmen at Grant.
Can you please wrap up your comments?
Okay. And I do wish support for everybody that is working to make our school district better. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jenny Owen, O-W-E-N. I'm a parent of a Lincoln Junior, and I'm a site council representative as well as a volunteer assistant speech and debate coach. And I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. As a longtime volunteer who has worked with many of you over the last 12 years, I can tell you that I was very able to get into the classroom to help with multiplication tables, to do junior great books leadership, to serve as site council at different schools, to serve as PTA president. But at this point in time, I come to you specifically to talk about high school students. And the reason being is I no longer can assist my child in advanced chemistry, in physics, in calculus. This is what I come to you and ask. I ask you to adequately fund teachers in our schools, and the reason high school students matter is because they are our future. If we have told them for 12 years, as we have told my daughter McKinley Rodriguez, that they matter, this is the time to do it. I applaud the effort at equity that the budget takes into consideration. However, I would suggest to you that you consider that children of color are at all of our schools, not simply those schools designated with high populations. When you underfund education on the high school level, you are putting all children, including children of color, children like my daughter McKinley Rodriguez, who is partially of color, at a risk of falling behind. To conclude, I will give you one of her quotes that she'd texted me today. Reducing high school FTE reduces students' abilities to forge strong academic relationships with their teachers as a result of less one-on-one interaction. The teacher has less bandwidth to assist those who need assistance and those who can excel with an extra challenge. The teacher must cater to the average student, and with more students in the class, there are more people who lie farther away from that average. Please consider as you go forward another statement that my daughter made, that math classes are difficult when they are large because it is a clear-cut metric of those who do and those who do not understand, and not everyone learns at the same rate. So please fund education on the high school level where it needs to be funded. Let's restore adequate funding.
Thank you. Next up, Gerald Deloney, Ashley Thinstrup, and Jamila Allen. You are none of those people. Go ahead.
I am filling in for Ashley Thirstrup. She had given her slot over to a family and they needed to get going. So Irene Aika had left me her talking points. And so my name is Dunya Minu, and I am here to read Irene's points that she wanted to make sure that the board heard tonight.
Thank you.
So Irene is a parent who participates in the NAEA Parents Helping Parents program, and she wanted to thank their board for the continued support and partnership with NAEA. And she wanted me to highlight a little bit of what's happened in her life because of this partnership. So she's created a family mission statement, which I'll read shortly. She became an advocate for her children in school. She's a volunteer at her daughter's kindergarten class now, and she also utilized the employment services and got a part-time job to support her 3 children as a single parent. So she and her sister both participate, and they both wrote mission statements, which is part of the program. And I apologize in advance because I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce the words correctly. So our family mission statement: to honor and respect the tradition of our culture. Koi ota mo Tonga ko hoku Sophia. God and Tonga are my heritage. To take pride in such a way that strengthens us as individuals and keeps us as strong as family, so that we cherish the love from one another and take in the words of wisdom and understand the true meaning of life. And this is from the Loikia Aika family. The other family mission statement is to support each other and respect and love in such a way through our Hawaiian and Sioux pride and traditions, so that we live a life of diversity along with a strong family bond. Luhua, Yoshioka, and Gerald Schmeisho. Sorry, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but those were 2 statements.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for being willing to read it for them.
One more.
Oh, okay.
From another family.
Okay.
May I take Gerald Deloney's time?
Yep. go ahead.
Okay. Okay, thank you. This is from Tony Driver. Hello, my name is Tony Driver. I'm a proud parent of 2 Native American kids who go to school in PPS. I support NAEA for all their great culturally and educational programs. NAEA has really enriched my family's lives with their educational after-school tutoring program. My younger daughter's math test scores have went up. Done going to NAEA after-school tutoring on Monday since that my daughter's final passed her state tests for math. My older daughter graduated from high school and got help for college with financial aid. To picking the college she wants to go to by using, she was able to pick a college to go to by using a NAEA advocate. I am so glad to have NAEA for supporting my kids. Beside teaching my family and I culturally learning of art and crafts on Monday nights, we have learned how to do beadwork, to sing, dancing, drumming, and making regalia. I'm glad to have NAEA in our community. I'm a true believer of our kids are further to make sure we support them in our education and their culture. Thank you, Tony Driver.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Orlisa Deshen, Arina Ika, which I think might have been just read, Cheryl Kyle. Not sure if they're here. Next up, Jorge Fernando Guzman, Mallet Seherty, Selby Stebbins. If you can come right up to the testimony table, actually. And then the next 3 after those will be Tony Driver, who I think we just heard from, McKinley Rodriguez, and Ed Wolf. You can go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Selby Stebbins, and I am board chairwoman of Shu Ren of Portland. Shu Ren provides educational supports and programs and fundraisers in support of the PPS Mandarin Immersion Program and its students at Woodstock Elementary, Hosford Middle School, and Cleveland High School. Shu Ren represents a large, strong, and dedicated parent collective which strengthens and bolsters PPS educational activities. Shu Ren is concerned with the reduction in 2013 year lottery openings for the immersion kindergarten class. The reason cited for this reduction is to balance the immersion kindergarten program with the neighborhood or English kindergarten. What has not been acknowledged, however, is that the reduction of available slots in the immersion program directly impacts neighborhood program numbers. The Woodstock neighborhood is growing, as is interest in Mandarin immersion. Many neighborhood families who apply for immersion lottery spots cite the neighborhood program as their second choice. Neighborhood families who do not receive immersion lottery slots move directly back into the neighborhood program, thus increasing its numbers even further. We acknowledge that recent budget cuts have forced everyone in the district to accept larger class sizes. However, in the bigger picture, reducing the Mandarin immersion program is the wrong solution to this problem. Additionally, the Mandarin immersion spans from kindergarten until 12th grade. Over this time span, some natural attrition in the program is to be expected. Smaller numbers of students entering the program limits the options for our students in the higher grade levels. In order to maintain a viable Mandarin program at Hosford and Cleveland, we need a critical mass of students to ensure sufficient staffing to provide a variety of courses. A larger number enrolled in kindergarten will help us to do that. Madam Superintendent and school board members, I look to you for vision and strategic direction for the future of the Mandarin Immersion Program. In addition, I urge you to restore historical numbers of immersion lottery openings and urge you to open a second Mandarin Immersion Program. This option is consistent with existing PPS goals of 2 new language programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Millette Faherty. It's F as in Frank, A-H-E-R-T-Y. I'm on the board with Selby of Shuren, and I'm also the vice president of the PTA elect for next year. I have a son in kindergarten, and I have another son in preschool who luckily got into the Mandarin program at Woodstock. We were all very relieved. I wanted to use my testimony to focus more on the business and economic impact that reducing the MIP has for our children. Ironically, 2 days ago, Stephen Schwartzman, I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he is the founder of Blackstone, the firm, which is one of the largest players in the private equity arena in the world. He announced a new $300 million scholarship for foreign students in China. And what the scholarship was meant to do was to provide funding for college students to attend school in China. The endowment would allow 200 students each year to take part in a 1-year master's program in public policy, beginning in June 2016 in Beijing. What Mr. Schwartzman said, I quote, "Blackstone invests all over the world, and we and I have to think globally in where the world is going to go. China is producing 10 million jobs a year, while the developed world has very low or no job creation." He went on to say, Mandarin should be a core curriculum, not an elective. And obviously myself and many of us here today agree with that statement. China sends over 200,000 students a year to the US, and we send a meager 26,000 over to China to be educated. We need to find a way to restore our 3 classes of 20 and provide another English teacher for Woodstock. Portland Public School is so unique in that we have an established MIP program, great teachers, and a huge demand for the program. We have all the tools in place to provide the experiences for our children today, and our students are begging for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have McKinley Rodriguez, Edward Wolf, and then the next 3 up are Vera Zinger, Cheryl McClure, and Stephanie Weaver. It was worth holding on. Go ahead.
From an efficiency standpoint, I'm Jenny Owen speaking for McKinley Rodriguez. She is currently texting me while she's preparing for IB exams at home. So this is an economy of scale and hopefully of your time too. This is what McKinley has just said. She said with regard to connection on increasing staffing at high school level. She said, though what connects students to education is their connection with their teachers, and that isn't possible to the same extent when the teacher has to be present for so many people. In elementary and middle school, our teachers know us both academically and as people, and losing that connection makes it easier for students to become disconnected with learning because the information seems to lack content. Even though teachers may be able to overcome this for certain students, is it at the expense of their ability to connect with others in the class. So that's just what she texted in, and I thank you for listening to that, and thank you for your time tonight.
And good luck with IB.
A nice use of the iPad. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about high schools tonight, and thank you to all of you for your fortitude. My name's Edward Wolf, W-O-L-F, and I'm speaking tonight as a Grant High School parent, as a member of the Northeast Parents Coalition, and as a member of the district's Long Range Facilities Plan Advisory Committee. I won't give the example of my daughter's senior year schedule at Grant High School beyond saying that it resembles other examples that you've heard, and like those, it's an example of part-time education at best. But I want to applaud the effort that's begun, the effort you're beginning to restore full-day high school, and I want to share 2 reasons why this difficult move is a smart move. The first is something that I don't think anyone else has mentioned tonight. It's our school bond. Our $482 million school bond, the biggest ever passed by an Oregon school district, prioritized high schools. Our community affirmed that priority by a 2-to-1 margin. I want to urge you to resist the disconnect that's opening between disinvestment in high school program while prioritizing investment in high school modernization. Our program and our buildings have got to be moving in the same direction. Second, I want to share something that I learned from a trusted friend earlier this week who has children in elementary and middle schools. And he told me that with signs of the recovery in the housing market, he's begun to hear from his friends and colleagues that they're considering looking at their home values and selling their homes to move out of the district before their kids reach high school age because they have heard things about a high school program full of holes. We've got to avoid that trend. So I want to urge you to align the budget, to adopt a budget that aligns with our school bond, to adopt a budget that keeps families in district throughout high school without looking for the exit, and that aims to restore a full day, a full program, and a full team of teachers to every Portland high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Vera Zinger, Cheryl McClure, and Stephanie Weaver. The next three, we're down to two, are Dan Brown and Michael Renard.
Are you first? It's
You
like
can
the
go
Price
ahead.
is Right or something.
Box number one, curtain number one. Go ahead.
Well, we know how to clear a room, don't we? Well, I just thought, my name is Stephanie Weaver, W-I-E-B-E-R, and I thought in 2 minutes I would tell you a little bit about my story. So I have a first grader at Reiki Elementary. I came to one of these meetings last year, kind of new to the whole school system and like frustrated with the funding and why are we having to raise so much money and teachers are being lost and we're losing more teachers than we're able to raise, and then 30% of that goes to the equity, and so there's all this learning involved. And I remember somebody saying, you've got to get down to Salem, mentioned here again tonight. I have spent so much time in Salem, writing to my Congress and legislators, and spending days, days down there, and feeling like my voice is not heard. The things that you care about, they don't care about, and there's so many agendas going on that you cannot positively affect the change. So I came back to my school. I'm like, I'm gonna get in there, I'm gonna work as hard as I can at my school, affect change there. Totally revamped the fundraising, started a geography program, volunteer every week on multiple things, probably spend close to 20 hours a week volunteering at my kids' school. I have a first grader and 2 and 4-year-olds. The challenge now is we have raised enough money for less than one teacher, so 0.5 FTE. We are losing 3.5 teachers this year. Unbelievable. We have 6 grades. We will have 3 grades with over 33 kids with no PE, no music. If the art tax gets out of its conundrum, we may have an art teacher, but we're not counting on that. What are we to do? So my plea to you is we, the people, need you somebody needs to stand up and say, we cannot do this. We can't physically run this school system with what you're giving us. I don't know what else to do. And like the person said before, your choice is private and pay for that, and then you take all these great people who care and who can actively affect change, you're taking them out of the system.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Cheryl McClure. It's M-C-C-L-U-R-E, and I'm a parent of a Richmond JMP student, a 2nd grade boy. I'm here tonight to express my dismay and concern for the proposed cuts to our children's program at the elementary level. The needs, requests, and desires of the JMP community are to maintain PE at 1.0. It has been determined by years of surveys of both parents and staff. With the proposed budget cuts directed at Richmond, the only way for this to happen is for the classroom teachers to pick up the slack and teach PE. These classroom teachers deliver 5 hours of curriculum and 2.5 hours in dual languages. I believe it would be impossible to maintain the rigor in the classroom and have the classroom teachers teach PE, which the JMP community highly values. I want to interject here that I'm also a teacher in the district, a PE specialist. In order to plan developmentally appropriate PE curriculum is no small task and requires time and forethought. It is obvious the rigor in this class, in the classroom would not be sacrificed and the physical education, again rated as the #1 special at Richmond, would suffer. I'm also not sure why programs that have been sustained through the budget cuts are now being cut. I understand in Superintendent Smith's budget proposal that we are supposed to be able to maintain what we currently have. I understood that we were able to add a net 66 FTE for the district after taking into account the 110 positions provided for by the city at the end of last year. Why is cutting PE, a program that has maintained a 1.0 FTE status for more than 20 years, suddenly under the gun when we are supposed to be maintaining? In this dual immersion model, classroom teachers cannot teach PE. Their hands are full. Richmond needs to maintain its current FTE across the board, all of it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dan Brown, Michael Renner.
Good evening. Thank you. It's depressing and outrageous that we have such limited resources for so many needs, and I sympathize with all of you guys, and I hope all the people that have left this evening went home and wrote their emails to their representatives to express their outrage. And I hope the remaining people will do the same. Everything that everyone said is so important that it needs to be done, but we're robbing from Peter to pay for Paul, and that's a big problem. And please be careful, and please be transparent as you do that. That's something that we all want to know how that proceeds and happens. There are some schools, sorry, I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm Dan Brown. I'm a parent of 2 kids at Maplewood. And there are some schools like Maplewood that are on the cusp of receiving equity funding, but don't make the cut. So they're not getting those funds. And at the same time, they're getting more staffing cuts, which results in the elimination of more teachers. And at a small school, they're not just teachers. I think it was Mr. Kane, I think, was a gentleman who spoke to the multiple roles that these teachers in these small schools play: counselor, referee, nurse, etc. The list goes on. Losing a teacher is more than losing a teacher. And what I'm most worried about is that these elementary kids, it is getting so bad that the negative attitude towards school and the pessimism towards school is increasing, and it's at a time that it's most important to develop a positive attitude towards school and learning, which is going to carry them through the rest of their lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, last and hopefully not least, my name is Michael Reunert. I'm a longtime supporter of PPS. I have 2 daughters at Robert Gray. I came here to tell you how fed up I was with continuing cuts and additional cuts tonight. But as I was sitting listening to all these people, I have some other thoughts. I think the current process of a zero-sum budget very clearly has pitted us all one against another, right? For this wonderful program supporting equity, that means my daughters have to suffer, right? Less classes. I certainly am thinking about when's the time I have to pull the plug, because I owe it to my daughters to get a good education. We're going down and down and down. And if the thoughts that I put down is, if our objective is just to slow the decline, we're meeting that objective. But if our objective is really to prepare our kids to be productive citizens, to be able to compete in the global market going forward, we're not on that path. And as I hear what goes on in the legislature, it's not clear to me we're ever going to get enough teachers to fully staff the way we need to with the traditional model. And so the thought that I had as I was sitting there in the stands listening to all these people about, don't cut my program, don't cut my program, oh, we're winners, please keep funding my program, I don't think that's going to work anymore. I really think we need to think outside of the box. The traditional model, I just don't think we can ever fund it. And so the thoughts I had, I don't know the answers, but what about using technology? What about distance learning? What about non-traditional apprenticeships? Works in Europe, works in other places. How about some more partnerships with other educational opportunities outside of the traditional school? Partnerships with the community. We got to do something different because we are not on the path to success. The last thing I'll leave you with, right, is the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same things we've been doing and expecting different results. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. We have 5 minutes, and my little wrap-up is only 2. So if there's somebody who stuck out the duration and did not get a chance to speak and would like to, I'd be happy to allow one more speaker. I have a volunteer in back who would, I think, probably like to share somebody else's story that wrote it down. But I just want to make sure that there's nobody else here in the auditorium that would like to speak. Okay, we'll take, okay. Last one.
Thank you. This will be coming from an 8th grader who is Tony Driver's daughter, who I gave the mother's testimony before. This is the daughter's testimony. Hello, my name is Claudia Chapman. I'm in the 8th grade. I want to thank the superintendent and board for having the foresight and courage to prioritize equity in the district. Thank Portland Public School and NAEA for their partnership as they work together to close the achievement gap. NAEA has helped a lot of ethnic youth to succeed in school. NAEA's Learning Center that's after school has helped me exceed all of my OAKS tests in the past and achieve all A's and B's.
Thank you. So I would like to thank everybody that came out tonight, those who signed up to testify, those who testified, those who wanted to testify and didn't get on a list, those who wanted to testify and had to leave because of some other commitment, those who wrote down their comments and were read, those who wrote down their comments. If you have written comments, please send them to the board email or to us individually. We do take written comments, and we've received a lot of email. With this volume of email, it is highly unlikely that we will respond to all of it. But please know, I know that each member of the board is reading that email and taking it into account. So please do continue to provide us feedback. A reminder that we have a meeting on May 6th and May 13th where there will also be public slots in the beginning to testify and provide us with additional input. And we are hoping to approve the budget for May 20th. Again, each time I hear this, you can hear how hard it is. These are very emotional. These are our children. These are our future, whether they're in kindergarten, pre-K, or at 12th grade, or even recent graduates. So I just thank the people of Portland who have continually supported public education, whether it's through local options, through raising their voice at the legislature. I can speak from our colleagues that the most frustrating part of this, both Superintendent Smith, the colleagues, is how this, the way of funding education in the state has this feeling of pitting us against each other, programs against each other, kids against each other. It's a very frustrating feeling. And we do, when we hear your advocacy, we know it's from the right place of what's for kids. And I can assure you that we are working as hard as we can to find the right way, as well as communicating with our legislators that it's not enough. It's a stable funding. We have to acknowledge that. And it's not enough. It is not adequate funding. So thank you all. And with that, we are adjourned.